All right, welcome back to the Float Universe podcast. I'm excited to be back and really excited to have our guest tonight back again, his second time. He was just telling me it's only his, not even his second year anniversary on YouTube. Seems like a lot longer than that. But yeah, I've been catching up on your videos over the past few days, and I took a little content break myself, just including making my own. So I've
Right.
kind of been out of the loop on a lot of things. Like I didn't know what the bear versus the man meme was, but I'm kind of starting to figure things out again. But anyway, welcome back to the podcast. Old World Florida is the account. Dr. Narco Longo, and just the infinite amount of content from, I mean, it's all Florida stuff and Old World and
Not
Tataria, all
always.
these. Not always is true. I actually was looking at your astrology stuff on your YouTube page, which was, I watched the Cancer one for myself because I'm a Cancer. So that was
Oof.
pretty interesting. So yeah, welcome back. It's great to have you back.
Thanks, man. My most
I,
popular video is actually about Ireland, and then my second or third most popular one is about Finland. So
you said Ireland is the first one?
yeah, hidden Irish history of America, and then the Finnish video, which is Hell on Earth.
Right. Well, yeah, the whole Finnish thing is a big part of your whole, like for people that didn't listen to the last podcast and aren't familiar with your work, there's a lot of roads we could go down. My favorite one is obviously that Florida is the place of the pre-biblical or pre-flood, part of
Oh,
the Bible with
oh
the,
yeah,
you know,
Genesis.
since we, since we did the podcast and before I left Florida, I'll even tell this to people that don't live in Florida anymore, but um, the whole thing about, I'm like, don't you know the Garden of Eden is in Florida? Don't you know Noah's Ark was built in the Panhandle and the armpit up there? I go, it's the only place that has gopher wood. I go, you need to go check out this guy on YouTube, Old World Florida, and just people's minds are blown. It's really, really mind blowing stuff. But I don't want to get too much into that because I was listening to some of your podcasts today, and it's like watching a Batman or a Spider-Man movie. Every time you got to get the little backstory, and I'm sure you're tired of telling that. So we can just get right into the good content. I mean, it's all great content, but I'm just saying if people want to hear your story, you literally tell it on every single podcast you've ever done. But the old world of Florida game is still good for you, yeah. Over a year later, it looks like you're going just as strong as ever.
Just getting started, Flip. Just getting
What's new
started.
in the old world Florida world since the last time we talked? Any big changes or
Well,
significant discoveries?
I could probably do a heck of a lot better job convincing someone that the Garden of Eden was in Florida since the last time we talked. What's new? What's right now? I just did a video on mushrooms, which I think you might like.
Well, yeah, I want to get into that, but hold on, and I want to back up just for a second. Then,
Okay,
since you almost took us down that road, go down that road of the more convincing argument for
right.
yeah,
So,
for all that.
so yeah. Well, thanks for having me. Very glad to be back. This is
Yeah,
one of my favorite podcasts I've ever done for sure. I love the toilet bowl background and
yeah, the float tank for people that aren't
yeah.
watching.
I'm only teasing, but thanks for having me again. I'm very glad. That's high praise, and I'm appreciative. The Garden of Eden, Florida's 1936 Republican candidate for governor was a man by the name of Elvie Edison Callaway. There's a city in Florida named after him to this day. He was a judge, a respected lawyer. He worked for the NAACP as well, one of the earliest white men to do so. And then he also was instrumental in the Scopes monkey trial and adjacent trials, which essentially was, are we going to teach evolution in school or the Bible in school? And he was at the front lines for that battle. And Clarence Darrow was a close friend of his. So a lot of this has been in like Hollywood movies, and taking creation out of school was something that he was super gung ho about fighting. He saw the dangers of communism. He detested communism. He detested welfare statism. All the things we're struggling with today. A lot, a lot, a lot. he went right to the source of the problem. He lost the run for governorship of Florida, but he lost with integrity, kept his chin up high, and a decade or two later, he eventually, or 30 years later, he comes out with the book entitled "In the Beginning," and he had a lifelong, not lifelong, he was a Baptist preacher since the age of 17. So this guy knew the Bible inside and out. And he, like I said, he was a judge. So he was one of, in Liberty County, he was the only judge for like years. He was the only, legal representative in the whole county. Very well-respected guy. Towards the end of his career, he went down to Central Florida, right? Like a lot of people do. Was living in and around like Winter Park, Orlando area. And he went to visit a guy, a mystic, a metaphysical author by the name of Dr. Brown Landone. Smart guy. Also prodigious writer of like metaphysical, holistic health stuff. They had a meeting. E. Calloway describes it as a spiritual experience, like a life-changing experience. He had a surreal, epiphany. And this guy kind of, he helped him get to that. I don't know what they talked about or what, but we only get some mentions in his book and elsewhere. But from this meeting with Dr. Brown Landone in Central Florida, he was told that he would be uncovering great, great mysteries pertaining to human life and the Bible and creation. He didn't know what the fuck that meant at all. But he had already made plans with a brother or two of his, and even a son, I think. Him and a group of guys, family, went out to Northwest Florida and started looking for land, because that's what they were going to do anyway. Come to find out, he had this experience. When he goes up there, he puts two and two together, and it makes sense to him. He starts taking note of the tree life, the plant life, the animal life in the area. He starts scanning, the geography, the topography, because he's prospecting land. He's about to buy some land with his brothers. Well, they end up settling on some land. He dedicates himself to this research. He leaves his life behind in Central Florida. And he was from Alabama to begin with, so this wasn't too far from where he was born. Now he's in Northwest Florida. And basically, he realizes, has the epiphany, or maybe it's a slow, gradual, studious realization, that if the Garden of Eden was a true, literal place, then it could only have been on the border of Florida and Georgia, and also in the corner of the Florida, Alabama, Georgia state line area where those three meet, as I like to call it, the FAG region. Florida, Alabama, Georgia state line.
That's a good one. Yeah. I've never heard that one.
So he moves to this area. He notices the thing that jumps out to him is the world's only four-headed river system. And truly, I challenge you, anyone listening, I've done it myself. Scour the maps for an equal four-headed river system like this. Go look up a biblical, illustration. One river, four equal heads. This is a story so simple and intuitive that a child could tell it. That's how the Bible's written. You can tell it with your body parts. This is the Garden of Eden, the four rivers of Eden. If it doesn't look like that, it's probably not the four rivers of Eden. He didn't make a big deal out of that. I'm saying that to you so that you can look at Northwest Florida and see.
Well, that was one of your, that was one of your selling points last time when we went through this. It was like all these things that, you know what I mean? So yeah, keep going.
Okay. So I'll speed up. Forgive me if I'm covering territory.
No, it's good. No, please retread it for people that have never heard this story before. So it's good. You're good.
So the thing that jumped out to him, two main things. You touched on one of them. You've got the world's only four-headed river system, which is the Apalachicola, Chattahoochee, Flint River system. If this is The rivers, this is the Apalachicola, and it goes down to the Gulf of Mexico, down here.
Mhm.
Up at the top, these four rivers are equally spaced. Four major rivers. Two of them on the outside are major rivers of commerce and trade and industry. And in fact, Atlanta is the city that it is today because it's where these two rivers meet back up. Does that make sense? That's how you connect Atlantis and Eden too. They're one and the same.
Atlantis. I've always thought that, but I always thought
Largest.
via your
Well,
stuff that Atlantis was Tampa Bay.
yes. Well, hey, I mean, we can't get too picky. This is
We're
all.
we're jumping
This is all
around, but yeah,
this is all the same geographic region, by the way. So it's one and the same, and they all support each other. I would say that Tampa Bay is like the capital seaport of Atlantis. You have that easy
hmm
access for the ships and the cargo. Um, but Atlanta, I'm with you. It's kind of a misnomer, but it does bear that link to ancient Atlantis. And hey, largest aquarium in the world, Atlanta.
yeah, oh yeah.
That's
Well, listen,
that sounds like a fingerprint to me.
I try
So
to get your talking points, especially when I was in Florida, and I'm trying. I'm glad I'm talking to you tonight because maybe you can. I mean, I was so sad when I knew I was going to leave Florida. I'm like, no, I've just unlocked all these things about this swamp I've been living in my whole life, which I just basically took for granted. I'm like, well, we got, I was born in Jersey and I've lived in Florida like most of my adult life, like probably 35 years total, especially growing up. That's my childhood. Space Coast, Disney. So I just saw it as a flat, hot, humid swamp, which I miss obviously because I'm in Wisconsin now. And God, I didn't know people needed to put on lotion, right? Until you leave humidity. I didn't know my hair could be a totally different style because I've just lived in humidity. But anyway, yeah. So I'm glad I'm talking to you tonight. Maybe you can convince me. And we already have many times over with this stuff last time we talked. Just blew my mind. And shout out to my friend Will in Florida. He's a fan of your stuff. He's a fan of Owen's stuff, and he couldn't believe it when he heard me talking to you. So it blew his mind a little bit. So shout out to Will out there in Melbourne, Florida, where I'm from, ultimately. But yeah, no, all these things, pre-flood Bible, all the Garden of Eden to the flood, and then the flood takes them over. Like, yeah, I was looking at this In the Beginning by E. Calloway. You did the full audiobook. I thought about doing that for older books, my version of it. This is a great video, and I can't from doing long form videos. This is 3 hours and 35 minutes long. It's like I know how much work must have went into making this video, and this has got like talk about the world's most hospitable climate, the largest concentration of freshwater springs in the world. Just like you said, the river of four heads. Every tree pleasing to the sight, the gopher wood, good gold of Havila,
yep,
the
Havilah.
Georgia Havilah, the Georgia Gold Belt, all
Oh
that
yeah,
onyx stone, the giants. Now I have a theory that giants, the dinosaur bones are just repurposed giants' bones. What do
probably.
you think
If
about that?
any of the ones that are real would probably be just some giant mammal or giant whale or giant, even a giant human, like you're saying. Totally.
Have you ever seen the movie Noah with
Mm,
the director of
the Russell Crowe?
Aronofsky? Yeah, Russell Crowe. It's very psychedelic. It's very biblical.
I haven't seen it.
You
No.
never? Oh, dude, you got to see that one.
Okay.
That's right up here. It's got the giants and everything.
Shall I? So
Yeah, you got to watch that one.
you summarized the that's probably most of the evidence I was presenting last time, and that's all E. Calloway. No
Well,
credit
this
to
was this was
me.
a big one too. Duration of Noah's voyage, 150 days, is
Right.
indicative of the Atlantic crossing. And that's
Right.
what people don't realize. That like when you approach your stuff, you realize like, wait a minute, okay, so the new world is actually the old world, and the old world is actually the new world. And when Noah didn't start out in the Middle East, he starts out in Florida and he ends up in the Middle East, and that's where
Right.
then the Bible takes off from there. So yeah, you
Yeah.
just mind
Well,
blowing
can
stuff.
I drop some updated new evidence on that?
Absolutely.
We can build on what E. Calloway said. So L.V. Edison Calloway wrote that book. He mainly focused on the gopherwood, like you said, the River of Four Heads, the plant life in the area. It's a biodiversity hotspot, one of America's only biodiversity hotspots. On top of that, it's an ice age refuge. So there's things there that literally lived through the ice age as if nothing even happened. And the whole northern hemisphere was sheared clean by glaciers. I mean, I wasn't there, but go look at the mountain
You're right
ranges,
though.
go look at the
We do have some
valleys.
Jurassic. We do have some Jurassic Park looking shit down there in Florida.
Right.
Some
And
of
then
that, some of the plant life and
the
bugs.
right, the biggest thing that we can build on that he didn't include in his book would be the overwhelming amount of Semitic or biblical toponyms in the Southeast United States, like names of places that are Indian names that are undoubtedly Hebrew or ancient Greek, Phoenician,
Oh yeah,
Canaanite.
your whole language deal too. Yeah, that's yeah. Oh yes, please keep
But
going.
one that's very easy to wrap our heads around that Evie, LV, Edison Callaway, if he had known this, he would have proven it to everyone. It's the cherry on top because it explains how they got it wrong. So this wasn't in the book, but this is something I figured out on my own. And hey, I'll pat myself on the back for it because I think you'll think it's pretty cool. Why did Noah, transfer the names? Or if it was a great empire, why did they take the names from there? Why didn't they go back to where they were from? There's open-ended questions. Well, there's only two rivers in the Middle East in Iraq, the Tigris and Euphrates. The Tigris is not even mentioned by name in Genesis. So
Mm-hmm.
Euphrates and Tigris. You're supposed to have the Euphrates, the Pison, the Gihon, and the Hiddekel. Those are the four rivers. They only
Mm-hmm.
have two over there. It's a mess. And you go stand there, you go drop a pin. It's literally sand and orange and yellow and orange, just wasteland as far as you can see. I don't know about everyone out there. I don't think that's how God would treat the Garden of Eden. I think there would be certain protections in place, certain, uh, you know, superlatives like highest concentration of freshwater springs, biodiversity hotspot, all those things. But blah, blah, blah. How did everyone get it so wrong? Well, like you said, we know Noah landed in Eurasia. You don't have to be a Christian or a Jew or an Arab to agree with that. Almost every indigenous population in Eurasia agrees somebody landed in the mountains of Ararat. Whether it was one family, whether it was a whole empire who shifted continents, doesn't matter. Storytelling often boils groups of people down into one person for the sake of storytelling and conversation, brevity. But someone landed in the mountains of Ararat and they brought with them civilization. They brought with them the horse. So that's another one that we can really, really prove this with is the horse. But what I'm getting at here is
Wait, so
why?
so the horse came from Florida or the North American continent
Yes.
via the flood
Yep.
to Eurasia. Okay, cool.
Universally recognized. The horse is universally recognized as having developed, evolved, quote unquote, in the Southeast United States. Then it disappears in the precise time frame of
Oh wow.
Plato's catastrophic fall of Atlantis, and it reappears in Eurasia, fully domesticated, with people riding it and forging empires and
Oh, that's wild.
bringing agricultures nation to nation. And it's totally in line with Noah's crossing and the cheetah, the lion, the camel. All of these developed in the Southeast United States disappear in the Ice Age or flood and reappear in Eurasia. But I really want to focus on the latitude. This is the capital L, big proof that E. E. Callaway missed out on, and to no fault of his own. I mean, they weren't really geolocating like we are today back then. So
Well, yeah, he didn't have YouTube
right.
followers, researchers.
So is it okay if I share my screen?
Yeah, let
That's okay.
me. Yeah,
Eh,
do I need to give you permission somehow? Let me figure this
Yeah,
out here.
I think it's
Yeah,
disabled.
yeah. Okay, you should try it now.
Nice, thank you. So it's going to be real
All
easy,
right.
real quick,
Yeah, do
and
your thing, man. Take over the screen as much as you need.
very intuitive too. Everyone can get an understanding of this. We're looking at Florida right now. You can see my screen?
Oh yeah.
Cool. So I'm down there in Palm Beach County, and we're going to
Yeah, I
notice
see
some
that.
things. We're going to notice some things about Florida right off the bat. You've got the um, peninsula jutting out into the Atlantic and Caribbean. And then the panhandle there has some flat lines in it. I want you to keep those flat lines in mind. And then I also want you to notice the point where Florida starts all the way over here on the East Coast, northeastern point, northeasternmost point of Florida. Just keep
Hmm.
those in mind. So we got two flat lines in the panhandle, and then we notice that that same flat line continues all the way to the Mississippi River.
Oh, I never noticed that before. Wow. Okay.
That's West Florida. That Florida used to go from Jekyll Island to the Mississippi.
Oh, wow.
And La Florida in Spanish times, 1500s, this is all of North America is Florida. It's La Florida, claimed by the Holy Roman Empire, which Spain was the helm of for a
Hmm.
short period. Well, just keep those in mind, and let's go over to the Middle East. We're going to go down here to the Gulf, and you're going to see some riverheads or some mouths of rivers over here, right?
Hmm.
Well, we're going to follow one of, I always get this, I always lose this. It's hard to find, but the exact point where the Tigris and Euphrates split is somewhere over here. Okay. Looks like
Okay.
like
Yeah.
this is where we're at. Now, see, I'm going to drop this coordinate. Oh, is it that one? Where is it? Okay, so this is you. Here it is. Here it is. Here it is. The Tigris and the Euphrates. See where they split?
Yep.
This is going to blow your mind. It blew my mind. It blows everyone's mind who gives their full attention to this. It is case fucking closed. When you drop a pin precisely on the point where the Tigris and Euphrates split, where they fork, that is the 31st degree parallel north precise.
Hmm.
0.00. 31 degrees north latitude, 0.00. Now, there's some other rivers around here, but it's ugly. We don't really get that perfect four-headed river, but there's four rivers. We'll give it to them. We'll give them some credit, and I don't blame people for getting it too wrong because there is 3 to 4 rivers, or even 6 or 7, how you look at it.
It's up to
But
interpretation. Yeah.
it's messy. It's like okay, that can be that one, that can be that one. Maybe they've changed over thousands of years, but again, this is all like if you drop a pin here, you get some forest on the banks of the river. Let's just zoom out. I mean, Jesus Christ, it is just yellow. It's just tan and yellow, and this is where the Iraq War was largely fought. This is Iraq we're talking about.
Okay. Right. Right.
So we're gonna zoom out, and we're gonna leave that little pin there, dropped pin, the exact point of the forking between the Tigris and Euphrates. Well, now we're going to follow that latitude. And if you had a better, software, you could just plot a line and see where it goes through. But let's just focus on Jerusalem right here. The holy city of Jerusalem. Again, 31 degrees latitude.
Hmm.
31 degrees latitude north. Well, so it goes through the two rivers precisely. I mean, that alone is like, God is telling us something.
Hmm.
The place where the Tigris and Euphrates fork is the same parallel, same latitude line as the holy city of Jerusalem. You could make a whole fucking documentary off that alone, but it doesn't even matter. Just put it on the back burner for now. Now, let's take this and go across the Atlantic. We're going to follow this 31st degree parallel north across the Atlantic. Well, I think you know where we're going with this.
I'm
I'd like to,
I'm thinking. I'm thinking. So yeah,
I'd like to introduce you to a little island by the name of Jekyll Island.
I've been there for a
Now,
wedding. It was
right
great.
now, Jekyll Island is where the Federal Reserve
Right.
system was conceived. There used to be a tribe of Indians who lived there by the name of the Timucua. The Timucua sacrificed their firstborn in the exact same manner as the Canaanites from the Old Testament. Their sacred name for the Creator and their most high, holy, Creator spirit was Yo Hey Wah. Yo Hey Wah. That's Yod Hey Vah Hey, the Hebrew name for God. And
Jehovah.
they leave out the last syllable unless you're of the Levitical caste, or if you're you have the you have the status to say the last syllable, but most people just say Yo Hey Va. It's a V because they've bastardized German, so it's Yod Hey Va Hey. But in Native American, in Native Floridian, it's Yo Hey Wah. And you know what the abbreviated name of that was? Just the J and the V? Jave. Jave. So the two Hebrew names for God are Yahweh and Yod He Vah He. Both of these were present in Florida when the Spanish first arrived. And I'd wager they were here thousands of years ago too. That race of Indians stood 7, 8, 8.5 feet tall. I can prove that to you with video. So we'll go through I got some good video that we can watch too a little bit later. But
Perfect.
this is Jekyll Island, and you're not going to be surprised here. 31.0.
Wow. Yeah. Oh yeah.
31.0. So I guess with we can even call this New Jerusalem. It's literally the point where you flip the page, and Jerusalem is Jekyll Island.
Right. Okay.
It's the financial capital of the Americas, Jekyll Island. They could have signed that document wherever they wanted. They chose Jekyll Island. They chose a place where child sacrifice was undertaken, not just the whole island. In John D. Rockefeller's own house, where there was an Indian altar where sacrifices are said to have been undertaken.
It's a spooky place, that's for sure.
The Jekyll Island Hotel was the council house for the whole tribe. And those two ceremonial centers are what were chosen as the locations for the drafting of the Federal Reserve. So I guess we can call this Shekel Island.
That's a good one. Yeah.
Or maybe Shackle Island, or even Jackal Island. But let's just follow this a little bit farther west. We're just getting started.
I was gonna say the 31st line has probably got a lot on it.
Dude.
It's like the 33rd parallels for the UFOs.
Yeah. But 31, 31, it does have a significance because 32 is where the Grand Lodge Freemasonry is. Because it's 32 degrees. They chose that on purpose. The 32nd degree. There's a lodge in either Savannah. Yeah, I think it's Savannah. The Savannah Lodge is considered one of the largest or most important Masonic lodges.
It's another ghost town city.
Right. So we got Jekyll Island 31.0. I mean, this is precise with those two rivers. It's not, latitude can amount to like miles, but when you're talking 31.0, you're talking line of sight. Like you can still see from 31.0 to 31.0 is mostly within view, as long as you don't have buildings or stuff, you can see there to there. So Jekyll Island, 31st degree. That's just a little tidbit, a little extra treat for people who are following along. And then what are we going to find? Waycross, one of the largest trees in Georgia.
Oh my God. I used to go to Waycross all the time. My grandma used to live there. Wow.
Waycross.
I thought Waycross was a nothing town, but I've been to that tree and all that stuff there.
Yep.
Wow.
The Waycross oak is one of the largest oak trees in the world. There's a larger one that's even closer, where I'm going to show you.
That's wild that you said Waycross is a nothing place in Georgia.
Right. So let's notice what we've got going on here. We're now roughly at the border of Florida. Right. You see this little squiggly line here
Yeah.
is a major river. It's the
Yeah. Oh, I see
St.
that. Yeah.
Mary's River. If that river weren't there, you can rest assured the 31st degree parallel would have been the true border for Florida.
Right.
And
Yeah.
I can prove that to you. But the St. Mary's River was chosen because it's natural. Natural
Natural border.
landmarks
Yeah.
are preferable to artificial. So don't be fooled. Florida is determined. The border between Florida and Georgia and Alabama and Mississippi and Louisiana is the 31st degree parallel north. And this is the breadbasket. This is the Fertile Crescent. This is why all the major European powers were fighting over this area decades before they ever settled on Roanoke, Plymouth,
I know.
Jamestown.
I heard that one of your podcasts is like nobody gives Florida history its real due in terms of the origins of the country. Because you're absolutely
Right.
right. Everybody's fighting over looking for the fountain of youth, and it all starts down there.
Amen. Well, now we're going to look at this area. So a couple minutes ago, we saw the two rivers of Eden, the fake Eden in the Middle East.
Mm-hmm.
Now we're going to zoom in on the four real rivers. Okay. This is the four real rivers of Eden. Like your hand.
Right. I see that. It's very defined.
Easy, intuitive, obvious. This is the Apalachicola, the apple of Eden, perhaps, the Apollo of Eden, sun. Cola is, Coca-Cola is bottled here. That's why it's so good. That's why people like Coca-Cola so much. It's literally bottled with water from the Garden of Eden.
That's true.
It's the black drink. It's the modern iteration of ancient Indian black drink they used to make from Yopon holly. Heavily, heavily caffeinated, dark black beverage. Started their morning with it. It was preferable to coffee. This is a huge conspiracy too. Coffee is junk that ruins your health. Yopon holly, it was a health tonic. That's why Coke was, started off as a health tonic. And blah blah
Interesting.
blah.
Never heard that one before. That's a good
Oh,
parallel
dude,
there. Yeah, it's a good one.
uh, Coca-Cola. I'm just saying Apalachicola. The cola, that suffix is a Native American word, and it is where you get Coca-Cola. Coca-Cola is bottled in Georgia and Tennessee and Florida primarily. So, and these, like I said, the two outer ones, if we just trace these two outer rivers, you're going to see they loop back up. Can you see my mouse?
Yeah.
So one goes out this way, one goes out this way. And this river, you're going to understand here just how integral these rivers are to America. I mean, the state line between Georgia and Alabama is one of these rivers. The state line between Florida and Georgia is one of these rivers. The vertical border right here.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the top end right here is where if these are your four rivers, this one is the shortest. The ring finger is the shortest, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's a little bit smaller than the others, but you'll notice it does also travel upwards. It's just heavily farmed but it
Yeah,
does.
I'm glad you pointed out because that fourth one was really hard to see there. But you're right. I
Yeah,
see it.
it's hard to tell, but that's the fourth river. It used to be a more major river,
You're right. They farmed it out.
industries changed. Oh, you want to talk about Garden of Eden? You know that, I mean, just fucking zoom out. This is one of the densest areas of farmland in the world. They farm this area like no tomorrow. My good friend, Jeffrey, lives there. I spend as much time as I can over there, right between two of these rivers, right in the middle. And my friend lives there. So I have the privilege to go out there and hang out. It feels like Eden. It's some of the best weather in the world.
I was gonna say I need to go out in the Lake Seminole. Then it looks like.
Yeah, let's just talk about the word Seminole too. Lake Seminole. Seminole is the Seminole Indians who are Semitic, whether they know it or not. They have so much Semitic heritage and culture and linguistics and practices. It's overwhelming. But the palm of this river system is Lake Seminole. Now, the top border here that traces the westernmost river, this is the Flint River, if I'm not mistaken. Or whatever, doesn't want to tell me the name, but oh no, it's the Chattahoochee, I think. Yeah, I think it's the Chattahoochee on the left, but it doesn't matter. They're the Chattahoochee, Fish Pond Creek, Spring Creek, and the Flint River. So Flint River, Spring Creek, Fish Pond, and the Chattahoochee. Those are the 4 rivers of Eden. And what they flow down into is the Apalachicola, the apple of Eden, the Apollo. Now, the top horizontal line here that constitutes the border between Florida and Alabama is the 31st degree parallel north. And it's determined by where this middle river ends. You see that?
Yeah.
So the top end of Lake Seminole is where the rivers end, or one or two of them ends. The bottom end of Lake Seminole, this goes to show how important this lake was to the developers of the southeast United States. They chose this area to distinguish Florida, Alabama, and Georgia. So the lower horizontal line is the 30th degree parallel. The higher one is the 31st. Now, what did they choose for the point where those two meet? Lake Seminole, the 4 rivers. So it looks like all these states wanted a piece of Eden. Florida, Georgia, Alabama, they each needed a piece. They each needed a little finger hold in this area. Now, Georgia is representative of George, King George, but also Saint George, the dragon slayer, who's often depicted trampling a dragon. If Georgia's the dragon slayer, then Florida must be the dragon. Alabama is Allah. Allah. Tallahassee. Ta-Allah-see. Dallas. Da-Alas. Talladega. Ta-Allah-dega. So the latitude right here is what largely proves how Noah transported the names of these rivers. The original names of these rivers in the Old Testament was the Pison, the Gihon, the Hiddekel, and the Euphrates. Well, when people get off a boat, they're not that creative. You ever seen places like New England, New York, New Jersey?
Yeah.
People are not creative, especially when they get off a boat. They take the first name they left with and drop it right when they land. Now, that's what we have in the Middle East. They've haphazardly assigned 2 of those rivers to 2 that are there, but why did they choose there? Latitude, the geolocating. These people had a way to measure their distance from the North Pole. Everyone does. If you're in the Northern Hemisphere, you can always determine your latitude. Your latitude is always easily determinated.
Mm.
Noah, if I may, give a summary of what I think happened here. Noah's Ark left the southeast United States, like we talked about on the last show we did. In fact, the Noah's Ark experience is in Kentucky, not far from the Mississippi. It's not built of gopher wood, but gopher wood grows right here, by the way. These 4 rivers, along 2 of them, is the only place in the world where gopher wood grows. And then also in that same area is the biodiversity hotspot. So this is a biodiversity hotspot and an ice age refuge. The ice age did not touch here, but whatever. We went through a lot of that in the last episode. What I'm saying here is this is the original Gardens of Eden. Noah departed, landed in Eurasia, and either with some type of compass or astrolabe, some geolocating device, or just his bare eyes and the endowment of intelligence from from the Lord on his grand plan, his grand design. However it was done, Noah was able to geolocate himself. And, can they get back in the ark and just float on back to Florida? No, they can't. But what they can do is return to the latitude that they're familiar with. You can't choose what continent you're stuck on, but you can choose what temperate zone you travel to. So they went smack dab right back to the 31st degree, parallel north, and named or established a society right where those four rivers are. Well, there's only two, but there's four messy rivers, 10 messy rivers over there in the Middle East. And right when they got to the 31st degree parallel north, just like over here, they dropped those names down on those four rivers and they never looked back.
What line is Mount Ararat on in terms of, because I thought they just got off as where they were and it was like, okay, this is now the new, our new place. So it's now called the Tigris and the Euphrates. So how far, what line of, yeah, there we go.
They're
Oh, 39.
39.
So after their journey, they made their way towards a climate that they were familiar with, is what you're saying.
Yes. So here, Noah's Ark and Noah and those old people who landed in Ararat, they're not really taken into account in our mainstream academia. Our mainstream history picks up in Sumeria, in the Fertile Crescent. Now, I just told you how they lost the original Fertile Crescent and settled on a new one. Wasn't that good? But they had to move down to Iraq before they could start the Sumerian Empire with horses and agriculture and all this stuff. So they had to hike down from the mountains of Ararat, not just Mount Ararat. There's some contention on that, whether it was the mountain or the mountains of, but we know someone landed there, and we know that that's not where they settled for good. They went down to Sumeria because it was too cold up there. They went back to the closest, it's equatable to what we have in the Gulf of Mexico, where those four rivers of Eden are just kind of poking. One of them's poking into the Gulf, so they went over to Iraq and they've got the big Gulf right there to the south of them, just like here. Here, let me show you. This is the Persian Gulf. So they essentially found the 31st degree latitude north and found the spot where four major rivers feed into a large gulf.
They were looking for their old home, but they, by virtue of being stuck there, had to settle for / maybe thought after the destruction, this is what was left of it. Who knows? But yeah, I get what you're saying. And it's interesting to think that everybody in the world is fighting over a piece of land that isn't even the piece of land that was originally, the piece of land. Right. You know what I mean? Like the Middle East isn't it's like, now it's in Florida. Yes. Well, that's the Jews know to go down to Florida.
Dude, that's one of the big proofs, dude.
I say, go ahead.
You know how you can prove this theory even more, that Florida's the Jewish Holy Land? All you got to do is ask yourself, okay, well, how many bombs are dropping over the fake Holy Land, and how many bombs aren't dropping on the real Holy Land? And how much do you see them landscaping their little hedges and trimming their little flowers, and we got to get the driveway painted nice, and the Ritz-Carlton's going to go there, and no, it's like a parking lot. It's like a dusty old wasteland that they're just like, hey, everyone, look over here, look over here. This is the Holy Land. Let's go, Jacob, Shmuley, let's go move to Florida,
I'm telling you, I always tell people there's 3 layers to Florida. You've got the northern part, which is the country and redneck, and then the central Florida is more, it's Latino and white, touristy. It's all touristy. And then, you've got the South Florida, which is Cuba and the 6th borough, and then New Israel.
Yep, 100%. So you bring up a good point. Is the book of Genesis, the first 6 chapters or so transpired in Florida, in the southeast United States. But Jesus might not have even been here either. There's great evidence to show that he was either born in the British Isles, went to the British Isles, had British, or I shouldn't say British, Irish, Celtic ancestry. It's believed he had red hair. That's from what we read. It's usually like a
Mhm.
strawberry hair, light skin. Jesus, he was born in Nazareth or Bethlehem, but Galilee, or his homeland, his familial homeland, is a Phoenician colony, not an Israelite colony. So it's a Phoenician colony. The Phoenicians essentially saying Phoenician is Finnegan. It's Irish. It's Celtic. It's a Viking. A Viking ship's a Phoenician ship. Anyone with two sets of eyes can see that.
And the Phoenicians are the Finnish from
Yes.
the new old world, which is
Right.
again, there's a whole narrative here, which is I've learned, and it's like my new history of or my narrative history now. Forget all the mainstream media history. Basically, through your stuff, and I mean, you basically the best thing about your content is not only do you bring new ideas to the table, but you're putting together, painting a larger picture with putting things together that you've discovered and other things, and I'm sure people have helped you along the way, sending you messages and emails and comments.
Oh yeah.
It's so good that it does really make you think, what is the truth? And you make such a compelling argument that I can't unsee it.
I mean, hey,
I can't go back to the old way.
just think about the Mississippi. I mean, literally has the name ISIS in it. The old word for the Nile was the River Isis. The River Isis.
Oh
Who's
yeah,
the
yeah.
ISIS is the missus of all misses. And if you're you sip water, you don't eat it. So Mississippi is the original River Isis. And there's a whole lot more to that, but the four rivers of Eden are over here. The true Nile is over there.
Yeah.
A lot of people, I guess, are in denial about this, but
I mean,
whatever.
let me ask you this: how much? I mean, I have a history major. I've studied the Bible my whole life, so like, and I'm open minded. Like, I can reject stuff, but there's I can't think of one thing that I've sat there and watched. I'm like, no, you've gone too far. I don't believe any of this. I don't believe at least this specific thing. But how much pushback do you actually get from people? I mean, do people get heated about this debate, or is it mostly like chill
No,
people?
I've we have a
Like, what's the
rabbi,
major argument? What's the major argument against your content?
right? So we have um we have rabbis come in here. It's a metaphysical bookstore. It's not New Age. It's
Oh, right.
our largest section is Christianity. Our second largest section is astrology, and then the next would be Buddhism, Hinduism. But we do have a big Judaism section too, Kabbalah and stuff. So we have some rabbis who come in here time to time. I talked to one of them who also, is a biblical historian, you could say, and he is a practicing rabbi. And um, I've talked with him about a lot of this. I've told him about the Native American connections to the Israelites and uh, Miami. Hey, you want to hear a good one? Miami.
Oh, yeah.
Miami is a Hebrew word. It's literally where they all live.
True.
North Miami is the second highest concentration of Jewish people in the world.
Well, then
Not
West Palm
not,
Beach.
not Brooklyn, not Manhattan. No, it's North Miami. No, I'm like North Miami,
Oh,
North,
gotcha.
like Seaside. Remember where the building collapsed
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah.
and the IDF responded?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
That's how Jewish that area is. So that area, Miami, is a Hebrew word. They don't even know that. I brought him in here.
What does it mean?
Same thing that it means in Native American. Same thing.
Which is
Well, there's three Mayas in Florida. There's Maya in Mexico. There's Miami in Florida, and then there's Miami in Ohio. Miami in Ohio.
oh, that's
Um,
true. Yeah, there is a Miami of Ohio. Yeah.
so Miami in Florida means big water. Mayam in Hebrew means water. Miami in Ohio means people of the river or the downstream people.
Mm-hmm.
Miami, Miami in Hebrew means people of the water or who of the water. Like me is like a which person or who or me,
Right.
but Mayam is water. So Miami is literally a Jewish word. Then there's a city by the name of Malabar
Oh
in
yeah.
Florida.
Port Malabar.
There's a city by the name of Alafaya,
Alafaya.
which is
Yep.
a common Arabic and even Semitic and Greek
Interesting. I live there.
greeting.
Alafaya, West Orlando.
Yep, it's a Arabic greeting. Say, I wish you health, Alafaya.
That's a UCF.
Right. So there's all this stuff in there, but the biggest pushback, I don't receive pushback on this, and I was telling you about the rabbi because
Yeah, yeah.
he came in here and I laid this all out to him, and he didn't push back on a single thing. He was pretty dumbfounded actually, and
The Goyim, no, shut it down.
yeah, yeah. But the biggest pushback I receive is for championing vegetarianism would have to be the biggest pushback I receive. And
well, yeah. Let's sidetrack for a minute here because one of the reasons that got me going down this to do another podcast was I'm posting about seed oils, and I only learned about seed oils over the past year. And
right,
I know there's extreme propaganda on both sides and in a meme form. Who knows if any of it's even true? So I was posting about apparently, and I correct me if I'm wrong, or let's hear your version of it. But seed oils in general aren't good for you. They're a post-industrial thing, and the reason they are,
right,
it's kind of like fluoride, where they had all this excess, and it's like, well, what can we do with it? Okay, dump it in the water supply.
right.
But in the they had, what is it, World War II, and they had all this shortage of oil, so they're using like vegetable oil, seed oil. And they're like, what? Okay, the war's over. What do we do with all this excess production? It's like, oh, well, you can cook with it.
Right.
So it's just something that, I mean, look around you. I mean, you're in good shape. You look like you take care of yourself and you eat right. But I'm sure you can look healthy. I mean, okay, so do you eat seed oils? What's your stand on seed oils? And tell me how I'm wrong.
Well, I don't think you're wrong. I think you're earnestly pursuing the best diet and health you can. There's nothing wrong with that. And it's hard to combat fear tactics. You know what I mean? This is the number one way that they get people to not make good choices is out of fear. So the seed oil psyop is the biggest fucking joke I've ever heard in my life. It's almost exclusively getting espoused by carnivists. Carnies,
Right.
corpse crunchers are the only people who promote this anti-seed oil fad. It's a total fad. And what really hurts me is just how little research people do. And I'm not like one of these trust the researchers, it's more about just a quick Google search would prove all of the talking points wrong. Now,
Hold on.
canola,
Let me say what my positionality is based on
sure,
these. Based on this, like I said, I'm not an expert. I've only picked this up. My ex girlfriend brought this into my life, and I started doing research into it. And I said, okay, well, this makes a lot of sense. So let's just
right,
see if we can find processed food without seed oils in it. Just look on the back of the
sure,
package, and it's like most stuff has some kind of seed oil. Okay, so but here's why. Here's at least the scientific reason why you shouldn't. High amounts of omega-6 fatty acids are found in these oils, which become inflammatory compounds in the pan
mm,
and in your body, playing a significant role in chronic inflammatory diseases and a large variety of other skin, gut, and weight
that's funny.
issues. Why is that?
Well, I'm not that old, but I am old enough to remember when they told you omega-6 was the thing you need most.
That was the
Omega-3,
thing too.
omega-6,
I'm
and
looking at
they're
this.
flip-floppers, flip-floppers.
That's absolutely true. 100%. I definitely agree
So
with you there.
now, just let me tell you, the main thing that scares people is industry lubricant. That people are like, hang on,
Right.
this isn't even food, man. They're feeding us sludge from the
And
machines.
it's like ivermectin. Yeah. In a kind
Yeah,
of like a reverse way. Like, oh, they're
right,
giving it to animals. So no, we can't. No, but it's fine.
right.
That's
Well,
what you need.
now this is the fallacy. This is the glaring, obvious fallacy that none of these people will ever go close to accepting. Seed oils yes, are largely a product of the industrial age. In terms of like grocery stores, sesame seed oil is one of the best things that you can ingest in oil form. Sunflower seed is tremendous for health. Avocado seed.
Well, see,
You've
okay. So
got
they are
you've
good
got
ones. You're right. No, but let me.
well,
Okay,
what's
so
the bad ones?
okay,
Canola oil?
here's what the thing says. Here are the evil eight, and I'll read the good ones. Okay, the first ones are the evil eight. Eight industrial oils that always to avoid at all costs: canola, corn,
Yeah,
cottonseed, soybean,
that's stupid.
sunflower, safflower, grapeseed, rice bran. The good ones: beef tallow, ghee, butter, coconut oil, olive oil, and avocado oil. Those are the good
Right.
ones.
So canola oil is is the one that I would say stay away from. That's obvious. It's the fact that it comes from a seed is not what makes it bad. It was used for industrial lubricant, and it is one that I stay away from.
Oh,
So
so you do
this,
stay away from some
well,
of
hang
them.
on. Canola oil was persona non grata before, way before the seed oil psyop came out. So canola oil has always been at the bottom of the barrel for holistic minded health people.
Right.
So canola oil almost doesn't even register to me as a seed oil because when I'm encountering seed oil people, like when I'm with my vegetarian friends, we're not avoiding seed oils. We're avoiding canola oil and certain shit that's just, downright bad for you no matter what type of thing it's derived from. Seeds as a whole are not bad. That's the fallacy. The seed oil. See, we're not saying canola oil. You said seed oil. Sunflower
Right.
seeds are great. Um,
Well, like I said, there are a few like olive oil, avocado oil, coconut oil, but those aren't really seeds. Avocado, I guess you could maybe, but like for example, I'll go buy sunflower seeds and I'll look on the back and it's like contains sunflower oil. I'm like, Jesus Christ! I go, I cannot escape this stuff if I
well, that
wanted
why is
to.
that bad? If sunflower seeds have
I don't know
sunflower
because,
oil,
well, I mean,
isn't that, come on.
in terms of the well, listen, I want to agree with you, but in terms of the research, I look at it and it says, okay, well, that sunflower is part of the evil eight,
Right.
so you know what I
So
mean?
if I tell you that Palestine's part of the evil eight, is it
I'd have to do some
bombs
research.
away?
Well, no, I'm just I'd have to do some research, and I'd have to make hopefully
Yeah.
an informed
Well,
opinion.
we're living in a world right now where there's at least sunflower oil and sunflower seeds. So I'll be worried when sunflower oil no longer comes
Well, right.
from sunflower
Well,
seeds.
and I will say this in terms of the research I've done over the years on what is the actual best diet, and that includes the spiritual aspect to it, because I think that's actually probably the most important part, is
Totally.
actually vegetarian and based on animals you are milking and making the animal products out of yourself to the point where I might even say eat the meat of those animals at some point because so not vegetarian completely, but you're not eating meat all the time because then you'd be, killing an animal every day.
Right.
You know what I mean? So
Well,
but yeah, vegetarian, like milk, cheese, eggs. I don't know kind of vegetarian. There's different levels of vegetarianism and what
right.
classifies as is it an animal cruelty thing or is it just like a vibrational, like
It's
energetic?
all of them. It's all of them. I'd love to sum it up, but
Yeah,
I want
please.
to make the point about the seed oil is
Okay.
it's not anything from seeds. Oil from seeds is not automatically bad. Yeah, but the main thing that they scare people with is industrial lubricant. They scare people saying they use this stuff on machines, man. What the hell are you doing eating that? Float. Let's just not get ahead of ourselves here, and let's remind everyone out there that heavy machinery ran almost exclusively off of animal fat for decades and decades and decades before seed oil was ever even invented for that purpose. And it wasn't invented for that purpose. They've been making sunflower seed forever, sunflower seed oil. They've been making, different seed oils are tremendous for you. Sesame seed. I mean, that's a superfood. If you want to leave that off your diet, by all means. But don't tell me that you're. Now, I'm not saying you, just anyone out there. Now, the reality is that seed oil is still barely even scratches the surface of the amount of uh, waste, animal waste and fats, because they use the trimmed off undesirable parts. They boil them down into fat and grease, and then they grease heavy machinery with that.
Mm-hmm.
So the industrial age originally was greased with pork fat and pig fat, cow fat. And even today, it's still done so. Many gun oils still have animal products in them. And, this whole fallacy that seed oil is machine lubricant is a total low IQ fallacy.
Well, but there
Because,
is truth that they did use it for that purpose.
okay, well, if butter
And
and fat and
I'm
grease
not
are getting used
I'm
for
not
that
coming
purpose, then
I'm not
where's the pushback on that?
I'm not coming from the angle of I don't want to take it because they use it in machines. My angle is, hey, look, we weren't doing this before, and only because they had an excess of it is why we're putting it in the food now, and it's become like a thing because it's just something that we started doing. I'm not listen. You could say it was in anything. It wouldn't bother me if it was in any kind of
So
machine.
just so
It's
you
just
know, canola oil was not invented until 1974. So
what is that? Vegetable oil?
canola oil is, well, you've got here.
What
There's
is
some things.
canola?
Hang on. Let's slow down. You mentioned corn oil. Corn is just corn. Corn
Right.
is also a superfood. It's the fact that they pesticide and GMO much of it
Mm-hmm.
is the reason that you should avoid it. Corn is a superfood. Corn is the number one nutrient supplied around the world. It is the largest contributor to global nutrition is
I've been
corn. Now, soy is also, people are not going to like this. This is another total psyop. Soy does not create estrogen. Soy does not create estrogen.
That's an interesting take. Keep going on that
I
one.
mean, has anyone proved this stuff, or are they just repeating what Liver King told them? Or are they just repeating what Paul Salad Dino repeated to them? You know, the whole soy. There's bodybuilders who've eaten nothing but soy
Mm-hmm.
for weeks. Their testosterone goes up, goes up. The issue with soy is you need non-GMO soy because it's the most GMO thing in the world.
Right.
So it's not the oil that you're worried about. It's the GMO'd genetic manipulation. You could even make the argue it's not even that bad for you. It's bad for your genome. Corn oil is the same way. Corn is amazing. Soy is a great source of nutrition that only people who've been propagandized feel the need to speak out against. So, I hear soy boy a lot, but I'm way more worried about eating meat and being a goy boy because I don't want any goy slop on my plate. And
Goy slop is made with soy.
that's not true.
A lot of it is though.
Burger King, and well, there's
Well,
soy in there. There's GMO in
what
soy,
is
but
what is a impossible burger made out of?
well, see, that's another thing. You're addressing the plant-based
Impossible
psyop.
Whopper. Listen, I'm kind of like just like you. I'm middle of the road, vegetarian, and the goal would be to like grow it all myself, right? Milk the animal myself. That's the ultimate goal for me. That's the perfect diet. I think is like get the apple off the tree. That's the highest vibrating food you can eat. Like literally pick it yourself and grow it.
Right.
Know who's touched it.
Yeah.
Know what chemicals have gone into it. Like I saw on a spectrum of like food highest to lowest vibration. Like the lowest vibration food is like refrigerated
Steak.
dead meat. Exactly. Yeah, like that's been in a
Steak and
refrigerator.
pork.
Right. Yeah, and then the highest was literally like some fruit you picked off the vine.
Yeah, and the God of the Bible knows this. He proves this to us. But here, I'll stop sharing my screen. But canola oil is 1974. So when people think that like the industrial age was built on the backs of seed oil, I mean that's just an April Fool's fucking fantasy. Like they were using butter and grease and leftover cow bits for hundreds of years before canola oil was ever invented. So if I haven't proven that that's a total farce psyop, forgive me.
Do you drink milk?
Hell no, that's disgusting. What are you?
Well, you're
What are
vegetarian. No,
you?
you can have milk.
Well, you can have cheese, but the Greeks and the Romans and
Okay. So
many
wait,
refined
hold on.
peoples.
So define your vegetarianism.
Well, I was largely vegan. I was vegan and hardcore vegan for a long time. I started including cheese. I eat cheese now, and it's more refined than milk. This raw milk thing, that's another huge fallacy. You see these people who drink milk, they all turn pink and swollen, just like your meat eaters. And raw milk is terrible for the human body. I mean, you're talking about tricking your body into thinking you're growing up into a 2,000-pound cow. Like, you know what that's going to do for cancer and
I don't disagree with you, but I discovered the A2 milk because I used to drink milk as a kid and I could drink almost an infinite amount, no bloating, nothing. But then I stopped drinking milk for years. And then I went back to it because I thought, well, what a fucking psyop all this fake milk stuff is. So let me go back to the real thing. Couldn't drink it because it was just the A1, the A2 mixed together. It makes you bloat, apparently, lactose intolerant. But then I discovered A2, and now I'm sucking that stuff down like it's going out of style, which I know can't be probably the best for me. So I'm glad that because I'm in Wisconsin too, where people live and die by the cow, the
right.
cheese and the milk.
Yeah,
So as a vegetarian, then you avoid a lot of dairy.
yeah, I'm very picky, or I'm pretty picky with dairy. I don't like
What about
milk.
eggs?
It seems like a wanton loss of life to me. It's abortions for breakfast. I'm
Eating
okay.
a chicken
I'm
period,
good.
an abortion. Well, it's not an abortion because the egg isn't fertilized.
Oh, so if we castrate a girl before she ever has kids, or
I'm just saying that's the argument. I'm not
rewire her genitalia, or
okay. Listen, I don't disagree with
if we
you. I don't.
factory farm, if we pimp a hoe out,
Oh,
if we hang on, if we pimp a hoe out and she's never been banged, we're in the clear.
listen, I totally agree with you. I'm just, I guess at this point, playing devil's advocate to,
Yeah,
justify my own lifestyle.
yeah.
Which,
I'm only
listen,
teasing.
I know, I know. So I guess I kind of, I've heard like people are like, where do you get your protein from? But I know
Oh
you can
my
get it
God,
from plants. I know. Well, so where do you get it from?
that's the stupidest fucking thing I've ever heard in my life. What do I wake up my day and say? Wake up and say, oh, where do I get my protein?
Well, some people would say that though, if the guy isn't eating milk or drinking milk and
Right.
eating
Okay.
meat,
So
like it would.
are you aware that black beans have far more protein than meat?
Well, that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm asking. People
Right.
want to know because some people just think that protein comes from either a protein shake or a piece of meat.
That's yeah, I don't know. I remember growing up, my dad used to slap like Canadian bacon on the plate and say, "Get your protein. You need energy.
See,
Protein's
exactly.
energy."
People think like
No,
that. People
yeah,
think
but
like that.
people think protein's like the everything molecule, like it's the fucking spirit molecule that
Well,
sustains health.
yeah,
It's actually one of the worst things that you can really focus on putting into your body. Protein poisoning is a thing. All these vitamin poisonings from taking all these supplements and shit are just ruining people's
yeah,
livers. All these muscle guys are dead by 50, 60. The bigger the muscles, the earlier the death,
yeah.
unfortunately.
Wow.
Not always the case, but it's
As the tall
hard on the
person,
organs.
yeah. Well, that's the thing about tall people. I'm a tall person, and apparently, tall
Nice,
people live in general a lot. I'm 6'5". I mean, it's not like a giant,
nice.
but that's why I like the giant content. I've always identified more on that side of the
Yeah,
spectrum than the shorter side. So
float. You bring up a good point. Where did the giants get their protein? No cow, no pig, no dairy, no lamb. Where'd they get their protein?
I don't know. You tell me. I guess the ocean,
Yeah,
the plants. Well, I've
yeah.
heard the argument that it's the plant. You can. Well, listen. I'm of the believer. I'm a believer of the placebo effect across the board. Like if you believe it enough, whether you believe meat's good for you or bad for you, or like my mom believes Jesus has made all food clean, right? That's her placebo
That's
effect. But
that's stupid.
I'm just saying, like people have belief systems, and I believe that literally everything is a placebo effect. That at a certain point of belief, that the food, I want to prove it wrong. That there's no vibrational
What
effect. There's
did
no,
what did you say
you know,
this theory was called? The pussy boy effect or the placebo? I don't know. Sounds like
everything's
nonsense.
placebo.
No, there's
No,
nothing placebo.
every
Hang on, Flip. There's nothing placebo about eating a bloody steak and receiving an adrenochrome high. There's nothing placebo about that. So,
the mind, you can't transcend the power of food. There is an actual a physical effect.
now
You
when
know what I mean? That's why I'm
Jesus,
saying that you can mind over matter anything, and food obviously. That's what I mean by the everything is a placebo effect.
well,
That it's the mind ultimately. And go ahead.
if your mom thinks she's the Dalai Lama, that's okay. And whatever, but
Well, she just believes that she could point to a place in the Bible that says Jesus has made all food clean.
that's not true. Are we talking about a big boy Bible or like a American pedophile
Well,
carnivore
well, what's a
Bible?
big boy Bible? Well, hold on, what's a big boy Bible?
The King James
Define it.
version. King
Is it
James
okay?
version.
Is that the because everybody's got different versions that they swear by?
That's the only. No, no, no. It's he. You can hear it from me, and you can hold me to this. And please, please do, and please, do your research and come to your own realization. This is the one Bible, the King James version in the English language. There's no mistakes about
What
it.
do you identify with a certain brand or sect of Christianity, like Orthodox or Baptist or anything like that?
No, that's stupid. Bunch of kids
What
trying
what
to
would what,
join a club.
would what would you call your belief system, if any, if
I'm
there
a
was a name for it?
I'm a Christian.
Oh, okay. So you are a Christian. That's why, well, I was gonna say like Catholic or Mormon. Like, where do you in turn? Okay, I know maybe it's undefinable, but where would you say you fall closest to?
I guess Episcopal is what I was raised. Went to an Episcopal school. That was a great dose of Jesus and not sucking up to Rome. But it's all the best parts of Catholicism without the Pope and confession. So Episcopal, it's like the American Church too. It's
Hmm.
essentially saying the American Church. Trump is Episcopalian. It's the wealthiest religion in the world to be an Episcopal, not Judaism, but to be Episcopal. It's the wealthiest religion in America. Not that that matters, but it's a.
Do you think Trump is legit Christian or just says he is?
Well, what does that mean?
Meaning, I can say I'm anything, but it doesn't mean I'm
He's
actually
a Christian.
practicing it at the end of the day.
He's a benevolent leader among men. He is Christian, of course.
Listen, I'm not a Trump hater. I'm just trying to, at this point,
No, that's
trying to see
okay.
where everybody sits because I've kind of dialed out of the political stuff. And about 2021, I said, you know what, this is just enough for me. I just said goodbye QAnon, goodbye Trump, goodbye Biden,
Yeah,
because it was just a constant jerk off with no ending. I'm like, oh, this is just terrible.
right.
So I
I
just
don't know,
decided.
man. I think
But
it's meant to
I
wear
think
you down.
oh yeah, well, I think Trump's going to win though. What do you think?
I don't
Who's the
know.
next president?
Trump's been the president. Trump won the last election, so or
I agree.
they
I
might
definitely agree.
they might steal one this time, might pull some shit, but Trump's been the president. He's going to be reelected if they allow him to, and I have my sights set on Barron Trump. Barron Trump is going to be a leader among men as well, and Florida will be the new. It's always been the spiritual and cultural nerve center of the United States, but it's soon to be the um, political capital of the United States. With Barron Trump at the helm, that's not
I
too
might have to
far
move
off.
back. I might have to move back. It's
You
calling me.
better.
Uh, Now I wanted to talk about the mushroom because I learned I actually learned some stuff watching your mushroom video today. I'll let you tell the story, but um, I learned about the different amanita and I learned
Mhm.
about the Tampa mushroom. And so I'll let you, if you want, tell me the story or tell the audience the mushroom situation in Florida. It was pretty cool.
Sure. I'd love to get into that, but to your point about Jesus making all food clean, I just like to really quick explain that. There's a couple instances, one in particular in Mark, I believe. I was trying to find it here, but Jesus is kind of um, he's like shamed by some other people for not washing his hands or not making his followers wash their hands before they eat. Um, then he gives a famous quote about it's not what goes into your mouth, it's about what comes out. I believe that's probably what your
That's one of them. I've heard
mother's
it many
referring to.
times. Yeah, that's one
Or
of them. Yeah,
then
there's a few that she puts together to make her.
there's another one in Corinthians which says shambles. Like it says if you eat anything in a lot of these bastardized, literally, this is one of the why you need a King James Version Bible because it was created by Neoplatonists. It was created by smart geniuses who, loved life and loved humanity. The American Bibles are made by carnivore pedophiles who want you to also be a carnivore pedophile. So when they,
Well, I wouldn't disagree with. So you're talking about Jews, right?
um, I mean, they probably fit those criteria, but I'm just talking about mainstream
You know,
Christians, like
yeah, I know what you're saying.
All the Christians who went to bat for Israel, like with the red heifer
Oh, for sure,
sacrifice
for
and
sure.
shit. So,
So you
or
think when you go to
whatever.
McDonald's, you're eating? Let me ask you this: do you think when you go to McDonald's, you're eating children? Like I'm talking literal because that's
No,
one of the big conspiracy theories out there is that
no,
they,
that's
they, they take the children's blood and use it for Passover, and then they send the bodies to the slaughterhouses and then to
okay.
the food
Okay.
outlets.
Well, the Jews have always ran the meat markets. If you go look back in Corinthians, it says shambles, and shambles either applies to it says you can break bread with anyone. You can eat if someone invites you down to eat with them, you can eat near the shambles or eat with the slaughterhouse and money changers. So shambles originally meant money changers, money changer, or a money changing table. Then
Mm.
it took on the meaning of slaughterhouse. Hmm. I wonder what slaughterhouse and money changing have in common. It's it's the number one practice of Jewish people, and it has been for thousands of years, is running the slaughterhouses, running the meat markets, running the meat industry,
Hmm.
Jewish ran. And then banking and, all that stuff is Jewish ran. So this is what Jesus was number one battle that he was fighting. The war against blood sacrifice and the war against money changing. That's what set him apart. That's why Jesus is not just some solar sun god. People who think, oh, Jesus is just the sun. I'm an astrotheologer. Dare I say, one of the best on the internet. Jesus is not just the sun in the sky. You can take that to the bank. When Mithra or Horus or Buddha, any of these potential solar gods, when they start calling out the Pharisees and Sadducees by name and flipping the money changing tables and directly addressing problems we're suffering from today, then I'll sign on with the whole zeitgeist. Jesus is just another one of the same story told over. No, 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 no. People are likened to the sun. Everybody's likened to the sun. When you walk in through a door, you are graded against the sun. Are you charismatic? Are you warm? Are you invigorating? You will be likened to the sun. Are you deflated? Are you damp? Are you cloudy? Are you rainy? You will be likened unto the sun. We are all graded against the sun. Jesus was graded most harshly against the sun, and he received a perfect score. Jesus is not just the sun. He personified the sun to the best of a human's abilities. He was infallible. He was disciplined. He arose when he was supposed to. All of these things, he was likened to the sun. He's not merely the sun, he is also the sun. He's the sun and Jupiter, benevolent force on earth. So he's not just some sun god, but blah, blah, blah. Jesus says, well, whatever, it doesn't matter. I get on triggered vegan
Yeah.
rants. I'm a triggered vegan soy boy.
No,
We all
I
know that.
like it. No, I don't think that, but I like it. But
Your point
do
about
you
the thing about Jesus or McDonald's, you said you do are we eating kids in McDonald's?
children? Yeah.
Well, yes and no. Cellularly, the GMOs that are widely used around the world today were they use a human genome as like a foundation, like a biological foundation when they're building these like
Hmm.
GMO genomes. It's all used with a
Like a
human
template.
a template. Thank you. It's using a human DNA template that was taken from aborted fetuses. So when you're eating GMOs, you're ultimately eating unraveled human DNA, and it slowly unravels your DNA. And that's where some of the worst issues and diseases come from. Is it's not a nutrient deficiency; it is your
From
DNA
GMO.
boiling inside of your body and
Let
unraveling.
me ask you this. Have you ever heard this? This is one of the most interesting things somebody ever told me at the float center, which was he saw me eating a bag of corn chips one day. You just yellow corn chips, high quality, but nonetheless yellow corn chips. He's like, you should never eat yellow corn chips. He's like, only blue. He goes, blue is organic. He goes, all yellow corn. And he's like, even down to the meat you eat, and that they're being fed the yellow corn. They are getting a GMO, which makes the corn bigger and fatter. And what it does is it distends your stomach, which is why you see so many people, particularly men who drink beer and eat, soy and corn products, specifically corn, have that body shape, that distended. Have you ever heard that before? That
Hmm.
blue is the only corn to eat because it's organic. I never heard that.
Yeah, I don't know about that. I've heard the darker corns are the better, as with most foods, but yellow corn, like sweet corn, grows here in Florida a lot. Um, Sweet corn is non-GMO and non-pesticide. You get it right off the cob, yellow, pure yellow sweet corn. It's amazing for you. It's a superfood.
Oh yeah, I'm sure, but I'm talking about like
When
chips
the
though.
Spanish showed up to Tampa Bay in the 1500s, they were feeding their horses oats. And let's say they'd feed them, you know, 10 pounds of oats, and then they run 100 miles. When they started giving them corn, because they never had corn before, they land in Tampa Bay, and then they explore the southeast United States. They started giving their horses corn. The horses could eat half as much and run twice as far. So by all means, people, leave corn out of your diet, but I don't know why somebody would. Corn is great when it's sourced, uh, you know,
Well, yeah, but that's what I'm saying is you can eat corn, you just can't the stuff that you're offering unless you do a little, extra effort. It's going to just be that GMO corn. That's what I'm saying,
right.
and to the level of it's put in the feed that the animals you're eating. So even if you don't eat any corn at all, if you eat an animal that's been fed that, you're getting the same. You're getting what
Well,
the animal ate.
the worst thing about animal feed is that they feed the animals themselves, which
Well,
results in
right,
like
yeah,
mad
that's
cow disease, mad pig. And the whole McDonald's thing is, cellularly, yes, they're feeding us children like aborted fetuses. But the
right.
adrenochrome, why would you waste money getting kids? It makes no sense. All the adrenochrome's already there in the meat. You got plenty of
Yeah,
adrenochrome.
but the thing with adrenochrome is there's levels to it where yeah, of course you can have that kind of adrenochrome, but the real creme de la creme of the adrenochrome is a frightened child's, like that innocence over the terror. Like put that together, and that you get much more potent. So again, this is just
So,
speculation and internet forums, and obviously I wouldn't know from any kind of
right.
experience, but
All mammal blood adrenalizes the same. All.
so you don't think human blood is any? There's a special component to it because we have a
You
soul that
Well, you get
animals
that,
don't
yeah.
have.
Yeah, you get that extra kuru effect. You get that
Well,
extra
that's what I
mad
mean. That's what
cow.
that's what they're going at. That's what they're
Sure.
going after the children for, which is that extra. It's like the caviar of the
Yeah, but
blood
why would they give
consumption.
that? They're not going to give that to the people in McDonald's. You're going to give the creme de
Oh
la
no,
creme
no, but I'm
away.
just saying. Well, no. The thing is, it's the whole point of that one guy that gave that interview was he's like, we need to get rid of the bodies because we take the blood for Passover, and then then they put it in the bodies, or the meat in with the bodies, and then that gets put
Right.
to Burger King and McDonald's, and so it's
That's
just again like kind of like the fluoride, getting rid of their waste product and by putting it back into the system and making money off of it, ultimately achieving all their goals at the same time. So,
Well,
but
you're
I can tell
probably
you don't
right.
eat McDonald's.
No, I don't. I will get Coke from McDonald's though. Coca-Cola. They have some of the best Coca-Cola. The
Is that like
purity
a fountain coca?
the
Yeah,
purity of the syrup
it's
at
so-
Coke at McDonald's is
it's
superior, and
a
they
lot of people
bottle
would.
it in stainless steel, which is very alchemically sound.
So you're okay with the corn syrup?
Oh, of course. That stuff's amazing for you.
Well, a lot of health people would disagree with you. Not me.
Okay.
Not me.
This
I'm
is
kind
this
of in
is
the. I'm kind of in the
hey,
middle.
no, I get it. I'm not contending with you on any of these things. I'm contending with these great topics in the sky that I'm dealing with in all these interviews, not just you. So don't take it personally at all. I know we're on the same page here, but the whole thing with corn syrup, again, I just told you a good indicator, why corn is like a superfood. Do you remember when we were, I'm 27. So when I was a kid, um, it was corn syrup, corn syrup, corn syrup, corn syrup. Don't feed your kid corn syrup. Don't feed your, SNL
Hmm.
even did this hilarious skit where it's a kid's birthday party and they're pouring corn, they're pouring fruit juice, and one of the moms comes up and she goes, it's like Kristen Wiig and someone. They're like, that there's corn syrup in that, and she goes, oh no. what's wrong with that? And she goes, it's corn syrup. And she goes, oh, but oh my God, like, what's wrong though? And she goes, it's corn syrup. And they're just getting more and more, you know, brain shut off. It's like, are you vaccinated? Are you avoiding corn syrup? And I'll tell you all,
Well,
high fructose corn syrup that's GMO'd is terrible. It's going to
well,
unravel
yeah,
your
that's
DNA.
what I.
Well, yeah,
Right, exactly.
don't
That's
get the
most of the
GMO
stuff out
stuff.
there, though.
No, no, no,
All
no.
right, that's what I mean. You got to. You.
Coca-Cola is
It's not.
non-GMO.
Oh, I didn't know that. You would assume that at that level, it would
You would
definitely be
assume,
GMO.
wouldn't you? You would assume if you've been watching Alex Jones and all these,
Well,
you
Coca-Cola
know,
seems like a Goislop brand, and a Goislop
no,
is
the
corn syrup and
no
soy.
bottled, no,
And
corn syrup is corn and it's bottled in,
no, I'm saying what I'm just saying. What's usually in Goislop is the main ingredients are usually soy and corn syrup.
right. So
In terms of the meme of Goislop,
I'd never recommend anyone drink Pepsi because Pepsi's fully GMO'd and does not care about your health whatsoever. Coca-Cola is, you know, and I am like internally giggling. I am a bit of a contrarian. I know it's hilarious to say
I
Coca-Cola
am too.
is
I like it.
good for you, but Coca-Cola is good for you. Go look at the amount of geniuses and billionaires who drink Coca-Cola all day long.
I know Warren Buffett loves it. Trump
People
loves
think
Diet
that
Coke, though. I don't know,
it's
but what about Diet Coke? You know, Diet Coke's poison,
that's
though, right?
worse. That's worse for you. Yeah, that's way worse for you.
Yeah. Okay.
That's if
I'm
he was
glad we agree on
drinking
that.
real Coke, he'd be way better off. And it only messes with his blood sugar because he eats so much steak. So if he weren't eating that much steak, he could be pounding those Cokes left and right. Real Coke, and it would be fine.
Well, he's probably. People say he also pounds a lot of Adderall. What do you think about that? Does he?
No, no, he
Stimulants?
doesn't. He doesn't take any drugs
I'm
or
just saying.
substances. His brother died of drinking. He hasn't touched a drink
Well, I know.
since.
I know. Yeah, I know. You know, he doesn't drink because if he's told that story much. I've heard that.
He drinks
Listen, I'm a
Coca-Cola
Trump
instead.
fan. I hope he wins. I like
Fuck
Owen
yeah.
Benjamin's. He's going to win because he was number 45, and 4 plus 5 equals 9, and then he'll be 47. So 4 plus 7 equals 11, and he was a part of 9/11. Trump knew at a minimum. Did you know that?
He was a truther about it. He was trying to
No,
expose it right after it happened.
I think he was in there with Silverstein, knowing full well what was going
No,
to
oh
happen.
my
That
God. Whatever. Bury your head in the sand. Let's vote for your imaginary friend instead.
I'm not voting for. If I vote for anybody, it'll be Trump. But I probably won't vote because I think voting is just a scam at this point.
Oh my God.
You
Yeah,
know,
bury your head in the sand and I'll vote for your imaginary friend. Sound like a deal?
who's my imaginary friend?
I don't know, but what do people expect out of the government? Like for them to come to
You
your
don't think?
door
Wait, so
and say,
wait, you really think
here
that?
is your golden certificate of pure, unadulterated democracy. Float.
So you
Here
don't
is
think
the
it's
angel of democracy.
you don't think it's a selection, not election. He's just these people are just selected ultimately, and they just put on the
No.
theater of a legitimate election versus the steal versus.
Well, that's true. They rob elections all the time, but Donald Trump shook up the whole system. You ever seen them go
So you're
after
saying
president?
you're just saying he's on a different team, then they're not on the. I just want to know because I'm still questioning myself. Is there a faction of people that are actually good, or are they just all on
No.
the same team and it's just all
So
theater?
just so you know, I have a little bit of insight into this. I valeted cars on Palm Beach Island for about 5 years. 2 years in Boca Raton, 3 years in Palm Beach Island. I parked Jeb Bush's car. I parked all Trump's friends' cars. Okay. These guys are not as Illuminati, well connected as you think they are. Jeb Bush showed up to my restaurant with a rented Acura by himself. He tipped me $2. Okay. These are not the well-suited henchmen, marching down the halls lockstep with their grand design and plan. It is very haphazard. It is very sloppy. They have such little control. You would marvel if you truly knew how little control this Illuminati had, how little control the Freemasons have. It is, dealing
Oh,
with
I no,
conspiracy
I
theories.
totally believe that. I
Well, hang
totally
on.
believe that because I know God's
I've
in
had a
control. So I'll go ahead.
Amen. I've had a full epiphany working in this bookstore. You've have every walk of conspiracy theorist come in here. You know what the main commonality between them all is?
Fear.
Bingo. Bingo.
Is it really?
Yep.
Nice.
People would rather have a big boogeyman down the street, that's the source of all their problems, than actually
Right.
taking full 100% accountability. That's what the Bible
Totally.
teaches us. You are the Illuminati. You're the Illuminati. The Illuminati is not holding your mouth open and putting stuff down your throat. You welcome the Illuminati into your mouth like a vampire. They have to be welcomed in.
What?
So,
Well, that's the thing. That's the whole Owen thing of consent. And that was a big
yes,
epiphany for me. It's like, no, no, no. They're just offering. You're consenting to. It's an
yes,
offer. Like you don't have to
yes,
accept the offer.
yes. Black magic. Same thing. I've learned a little bit about black magic without being a black magician. What have I learned? There's no such thing as black magic. There's blood magic, which is synonymous with black magic. Black magic is blood magic. If there's no
What
blood,
about
it's
sex
not.
magic?
If there's no blood,
Uh,
it's white. Vaginal blood doesn't
so
count.
okay.
So vaginal
So
blood and
sex
sexual
magic is white
fluids,
magic.
well, not always. No, no, no. If it's sexual fluids,
Okay.
that's white magic. And if there's no loss of life, that's white magic. Now, white magic implies like a benevolence, which I would also stress, but it's not just negativity or negative will that constitutes black magic. Black magic is blood magic. Make no mistake about it. The shedding of blood, the consumption of blood is black magic. God gave us free.
Yeah, animal. You're talking about animals' blood too, not just people.
Okay, yeah. Why is the world evil? The world will never know peace so long as there are slaughterhouses and factory farming. The world will never know peace.
I used to think that there was that because we ate meat, the animals also would eat other animals, and if we didn't, as a collective, eat animals, the animals would somehow stop eating them. That would somehow change too. Like they're only mirroring our, what we do collectively.
Well, that's
But
kind of
this is
implied
the,
in
the
it's
psychedelic
implied in
thought.
Genesis. It's implied in
Oh,
Genesis
right,
that there were no predatory animals. So that might just be some hippie pipe
right.
dream, but it
The
is
lion lays
implied
down with
that
the
there
lamb.
was.
Yeah.
Another thing is in Genesis chapter 7, you have the Bible's definition and description of adrenochrome. Um, Cain and Abel, chapter 4. Adam knew his wife, and she conceived and bare Cain, and said, I've gotten a man, blah, 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 blah. We go forward. So Cain was the tiller of the ground, Abel was the keeper of sheep. Now, when it says that Abel made a sacrifice or made an offering, it makes no mention whatsoever of slaughter. None. There's no death. There's no death toll. There's no loss of life. It says, makes an offering of the fat thereof. But Float, we can derive fat from ghee or butter. The dairy, the
Right.
milking of an animal produces fats. That's largely what dairy is. And then also there's glands around the outside of the body that oils or fluids can be extracted from them
Mm.
that are often used in like different industries like incense and binders and things like that. So it doesn't say any slaughter. But then when we skip forward a little bit, you'll see that Cain kills Abel. Cain and Abel, maybe the first cannibal, maybe.
That's a good one.
But Cain and Abel, or are can't and Abel, can do.
Yeah.
Abel, able-bodied. So Cain and Abel, when Cain slays Abel, which is the first crime, a lot of people foolishly say, so the vegetarian was the first murderer, They were all vegetarians at this point, by the way. So the first murder victim was a vegetarian too. Now then, when Cain slays Abel, we have a very, rich imagery, poetic passage here about adrenochrome in the Bible. And Cain talked with Abel, his brother, and it came to pass when they were in the field that Cain rose up against Abel, his brother, and slew him. And the Lord said unto Cain, Where is Abel thy brother? And he said, I know not. Am I my brother's keeper? And he said, What hast thou done? The voice of thy brother's blood crieth unto me from the ground. The voice of thy brother's blood crieth unto me from the ground. The blood has the memory. The blood has the terror of the event soaked into
Right.
it. It is a sponge of memory.
Yeah. Adrenalized blood.
Absolutely.
Well,
Could still hear the screams. God could taste the screams in the blood that dripped into the ground. Now, I think people should be careful of what they eat and be careful not eating any meat. This is folly. We can know, float. It's very simple. You don't have to ask me. I get confused about some stuff too. But when we look at Genesis, you'll notice clear as day. Couldn't be simpler than this. God says, and God said, a little bit further, sorry. Man, shit, I'm lost. Sorry.
what do you think about Jewish dietary law beyond Genesis that says, okay, you can eat these things, but don't eat the, for example, pig or the shellfish? Well, there's obviously
Right.
laws that specify.
Well, they're just trying to stay healthy. They are corrupted and do enjoy eating blood, admittedly. Like they openly recognize the power of blood.
Yeah, I get what yeah, just this is
But
the blood you want to avoid.
well, they avoid the pig mostly because it has no lymphatic system or cellular detox system. It is an internal sewage system.
It's
So
a
they
dirty
don't
animal, right?
beyond dirty. I mean, even out in the wild, eating nothing but what it finds in the wild, you still don't want to touch these things.
Well,
There's
there's supposed to be an intelligence level to it too. It's like almost like eating a dog.
that too. Now, to your point about the Noahide laws, or maybe I'm going a little too far back, but
I think it's in Deuteronomy where I'm pulling these Jewish dietary laws,
well, here.
which is a
Genesis chapter 2, 15. And the Lord God took the man and put him into the Garden of Eden to dress it and to keep it. And the Lord God commanded the man, saying, of every tree of the garden thou mayest freely eat, but of the tree of knowledge of good and evil, blah blah blah.
the
Here,
mushroom.
and out of the ground made the Lord God to grow every tree that is pleasant to the sight and good for food. The tree of life also in the midst of the garden, and the tree of knowledge. Now, when he tells man and woman what they should or shouldn't be eating, he clearly says, shit, sorry, I got lost. I had this marked up. I've been talking about it so much. Okay. It's Genesis chapter 1, verse 29. I was looking in chapter 2, my fault. And God said, behold, I have given you, man and woman, every herb bearing seed, which is upon the face of all the earth, and every tree in the which is the fruit of a tree yielding seed, to you it shall be for meat. And to every beast of the
Justification
earth,
for marijuana.
100%. That's an herb bearing seed, and it's also plain as day. That's a whole nother rabbit hole. But
That's the
God,
biggest verse that stoners like to, myself included, quote
well, I can do you one
to
better.
justify.
Will you allow me to justify your cannabis use even more?
Oh, go for it. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Well, just the reason I read that chapter, Genesis chapter 1, verse 29, is man's original factory settings are undoubtedly frugivorous and herbivorous. No room for folly, no room for confusion. The original factory settings could not be plainer and more simple. Now we go to the Cain and Abel did not eat any meat. Those were still vegetarians. It's not until Noah that you have the open addressing of diet and the new diet. So when we go
It's
to
interesting. You need to see Noah movie because Aronofsky is a veget. I think he's a vegan, and there's a vegan message in that movie as well as being there with all your other stuff, the giants and the flood and the ark and all that. You're gonna love that movie. It's psychedelic too.
Shall yeah.
Like that was one of the movies I recommend people watch on acid.
Thank you. I think I will. Now, when Noah lands, we get the Noahide laws. And the Noahide laws kind of loosen the restrictions. Man, God's pretty much had it with man. He's had it with the earth. He's saying, I set the bar pretty low for you guys, and you still disappointed me. Even Noah, who was quote unquote perfect in his generations, sinless, you could even argue, God still had to lower the bar for him. So when people say, oh, well, God, Genesis chapter 9, God gave us meat to eat, flesh. No, 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 no. God lowered the bar so low that he then, in the same breath that he says you can eat creatures, he's also saying you can eat octopus, your dog, cat. You can eat toenails if you want to. You can eat, you know, snakes and worms and maggots, all creeping things, all living things on the earth. But what he also says is that every animal is going to be terrified of you. You have lost your status as the steward of Eden. You've betrayed it. We haven't lost it. Jesus renewed this lease on life. But at this point, the bar was being lowered, and it's nothing to celebrate. This commandment really, when God says, "And the fear of you and the dread of you shall be upon every beast of the earth, and upon every fowl of the air, upon all that moveth upon the earth, and upon all the fishes of the sea. Into your hand are they delivered. Every moving thing that liveth shall be meat for you." They usually stop there. The carnivists usually stop there. But let's keep reading. Every moving thing that liveth shall be meat for you. Even as the green herb have I given you all things. But flesh with the life thereof, which is the blood thereof, adrenochrome, shall ye not eat. Now there's many people who interpret this as dairy. Yeah, you can eat of all the animals. Eat of any animal you want, but you can't eat the flesh. What are you, fucking crazy? You're gonna cut that thing open and eat it? Jews, modern day Israel, whatever you want to call them, they interpret this as, well, oy vey, you can have as much meat as you want as long as you drain the blood, That's as long as you drain the blood, you're good. So they use that for any creeping thing. So be careful citing chapter 9 as a excuse or a justification of eating meat. It could not be farther from that. It is actually an explicit warning against the dangers of consuming blood and flesh with blood in them. You could even argue that this, if you want to be a Liver King guy, that this is saying, hey, you don't eat anything until the blood is gone. Then you can eat whatever you want. I don't look at it that way because it's actually including man. If you follow these laws in theory, you can eat man too.
Well, yeah.
You can eat dog. This is the justification for eating dog. It's the same thing. Now, if you take heed of the no blood, that's still pretty much a vegetarian diet. But then later on it says, this is also used as the justification for blood sacrifice, which they're still doing to this day. And they go hand in hand. Blood sacrifice, the consumption of meat, and money changing, hand in hand in hand. They are inseparable. Meat eaters, money changing, they go hand in hand, inseparable. Jesus knew this. He stressed this. His number one message, standing up against the money changers, standing up against blood sacrificers. So
he's the first anti-Zionist.
Yes, he called out the Pharisees and the Sadducees by name, which is who are still running the show today. They'll tell you the Sadducees died out, but the Pharisees,
synagogue of Satan.
The Pharisees are the synagogue of Satan. The blood flows. The blood is on their hands. They've convinced most of the world into their own Babylonian blood magic, blood diet.
Oh, yeah, I got to stop there with the Babylon thing because that's the thing. When you get into your stuff, it's like, wait a minute, there's a whole world of existence that was pre-Babylonian, and we are literally in a post-flood Babylonian existence that is stretched across the world at this point. That was fascinating to me that you you step back and you think, wait a minute, there was like an Atlantean, uh, and it's like, whoa, there was all kinds of stuff that pre-existed the Babylonian one. It is a Babylonian system we're in. Very good point.
Totally. And the world is still run by Pharisees who run the meat markets, and they do the money changing. It's the same business, the same people. The word in the Bible, shambles or shamble. If you say something's in shambles, it's like you just walked into a slaughterhouse.
Right.
Shamble,
Oh, okay.
shambles originally referred to money changing, like I said a little bit earlier. Then
I didn't
it
know
started
that.
then it started being applied to slaughterhouses because the money changers were doing the slaughterhousing, and it's synonymous at the eventually.
Well,
So
the Jews historically do the jobs that the upper class, ruling class, didn't want to do: money changing, slaughter, pornography,
it's not that they didn't
slavery.
want to do it's they were religiously
They provided the
advised
service too. Well,
against
yeah.
it. There was vicious behavior, vicious industries that Christians had no business being in anyways. So
Well, we're the ones that demand the goy slop, though, and ultimately it's an offer, and you don't have to accept it.
right. But if everyone got off the adrenochrome high, nobody would even be craving meat. I mean, people think they crave meat and crave the nutrition. They're just adrenochrome addicts. I mean, it's sad. You've got all these people lined up at McDonald's, like they're lined up for an adrenochrome fix. It's scary.
Right.
It's
So, yeah, it is scary because the thing doesn't even deteriorate over time. I'm sure you've seen
the
videos of that kind of stuff, where
yeah,
the food just
people.
like stays basically the same for months, if not years.
Yes, people who go vegetarian get a new lease on life, and you've got to be a real vegetarian, not one of these Starbucks vegans, blue hair,
Well, was there
fucking chubby blue-haired baristas who are like, "I'm vegan for
what,
the cows." No, you need
what
to be a
that's
selfish
that
vegetarian. Let's be selfish vegetarians. Me first. I'm a vegetarian because I want to be healthy. If I need to get from point A to
so let
point
me
B,
ask you this.
I'll ride a horse into the fucking ground if I need to.
Were you a meat eater that had some kind of epiphany or some kind of life shift that you know what I mean? Or were you always, did you grow up your parents vegan, vegetarian? Like what's been your food life?
Right. So I recently found out that I was raised that the first year or so of my life, I was largely raw fruit. I didn't have the privilege of being breastfed, unfortunately. I was an in vitro fertilization baby. So born, I wasn't conceived like by two people. So
What
my
does that mean,
mom
test tube?
also, yeah, I'm a test tube baby. Fine. Geez, bro, why do you got to be so mean about it? But the
I think it's cool.
my mother was a little bit older. I don't know if she didn't want to breastfeed or if she was advised against it, but that was a big thing back then too, was you don't need to breastfeed, just put them on the formula. But I got formula, but thank God I turned out okay, probably because my mom put me on raw fruit diet for the first year or so of my life. And from there on
So
just
so
went
yeah, you
went
started
to the
out clean.
standard. Yeah, started out very, very starting out. Then my whole, childhood after that was like waffles and grilled cheese and I ate McDonald's as much as anyone. I've always had an aversion to steak and pork. I could not stand to eat them. Um,
Hmm.
my parents have had to force me to eat steak and pork. My brother loved steak. I was more of a cheese guy. I always liked grilled cheese. Those were my vices. The grilled cheese, mac and cheese, milkshake, and never was
Oh
really a
yeah,
big
those are
milk,
good.
never was a big milk drinker, and I never liked seafood. We used to go scalloping, and I loved
I don't like seafood
scallops.
either.
That was it.
I don't like
Never could stand fish.
seafood, and I call all that stuff on the bottom bugs of the sea. Like people want to eat shrimp and lobster and crab. I'm like,
Totally.
those bugs of the sea.
Yeah. 100%.
There's a reason they're forbidden in like Deuteronomy somewhere. There's the
Yep.
Jewish dietary laws like, no, don't eat the shellfish.
Hmm.
Uh, yeah, but yeah, well, cool. Let's see here. I like the sidetrack conversation. It's been great. Oh, so the Garden of Eden. Glad you we can segue from there.
Hmm.
obviously in the Garden of Eden, you've got the forbidden fruit, the tree of what knowledge of good and evil. Your
Right.
newest one of your newer videos is totally about mushrooms, and because Florida is in your universe in Florida, then obviously the fruit, and I think it's the mushroom. I also think
Mhm.
the manna in the Bible is the mushroom when
Right.
they're in the desert. But anyway,
Well,
go. I want to hear about the Florida Garden of Eden mushroom.
right. So, we've got all these Eden theories in Florida, and I'm sure a lot of people are familiar with Terrence McKenna and the stoned ape theory. One of the things I very recently got started getting pushback on was the stoned ape theory. People say, if you're a Christian, how dare you, try and insert the stoned ape theory into this, it's heretical, drugs are from the devil, essentially. Typical low
So you
IQ
believe in
knowledge.
the stoned ape theory?
Well, it's not the stoned ape theory. One of the, I love Terrence McKenna, but he didn't coin that term either, by the way. That was applied to his work by other people. Um,
Uh,
he wrote Food of the Gods, and he theorized about the Garden of Eden, mushrooms being in the Garden of Eden, some type of psychedelic substance. He actually even said it might have been a vine, like the serpent on the tree, like the vine wrapped around the tree.
uh,
But he's talked
ayahuasca.
about, yeah, right. He's talked about mushrooms, ayahuasca, and then another thing. But the thing is, he didn't come up with that. He was just noticing, that it's written on, uh, there's churches and monasteries from 700, 900 AD that have mushrooms all over them, carved onto the walls, into the artwork. Jesus as a mushroom, mushrooms in
Jesus
the
was a
Garden of Eden.
mushroom. Yeah.
Then in 1291, the cathedral, or I don't know what the name of the building is, but it's in Agincourt in France. They have a fucking Garden of Eden mushroom scene. It's all over the place in Europe. They have in the Middle East. They have mushrooms in the Garden of Eden. It was pretty well recognized like 1,000 years ago. They were pretty aware of that. It might have been secret knowledge for the higher ups, but they knew it and they wrote it in the artwork, and we forgot that or got covered up. So it's not unfounded. It's not ridiculous to say that a mushroom was in the Garden of Eden. I've gone into a lot of the proofs. I like to just go down Bible verses and just categorically, match detail for detail. And what do we see in the Garden of Eden was um, chapter 3. You have, now the serpent was more subtil than any beast of the field. Subtil, not subtle with an L-E, subtil. Was more subtle than any beast of the field, which the Lord God had made. And he said unto the woman, yeah, hath God said, ye shall not eat of every tree of the garden? And the woman said unto the serpent, we may eat of the fruit of the trees of the garden. But of the fruit of the tree which is in the midst of the garden, God hath said, ye shall not eat of it, neither shall ye touch it, lest ye die. Well, very few fruits can kill you by touching them. However, there are some mushrooms that if you touch them at the wrong time and touch the wrong part of your body, you can go into unconsciousness and you can even die. The two things that man would have been most afraid of in a golden age horticultural, scenario would have been poisonous mushrooms and venomous snakes. Would have been his, main adversaries. So it's no coincidence these two pop up and they go hand in hand. Well, another thing is that snakes and toads and turtles, a lot of them actually render themselves poisonous by either eating the mushrooms themselves. Yes, some snakes eat mushrooms,
Mm-hmm.
but
Yeah.
they mainly prey off of insects that have become delirious by touching insects or flying near their spores or touching down on them. If you ever watch a mushroom, flies will fly around it and become disorientated and just kind of fall over, go in circles. And then it's just easy peasy. food for the frogs, toads, and snakes, who largely eat insects. And then, like I said, they even eat
Ah,
mushrooms themselves sometimes. So they use mushrooms as bait, like a delirious intoxicant, and then eat on the
right.
intoxicated prey. And that actually is what helps many snakes become poisonous or venomous, is that they need poison in order to create their own venom or make themselves poisonous. Now,
Interesting.
the midst of the garden is a good giveaway. How can a single tree be in the midst of a garden? And if it's one type of tree, is it just a single tree or is it one type of tree? Well, it's hard. Midst, however, mushroom perfectly fits the criteria for midst. The the fungal networks that produce mushrooms can span multiple miles. The spores can, if you have a mushroom in a room, you can almost see that every square foot of a room or an auditorium is filled with spores. So in the midst can either mean spread throughout, in the middle of, or during. So midst with mushrooms, I would look to the fact that they spread all throughout a garden. And anyone who's gardened knows that mushrooms pop up in the garden. They'll pop up in the
Right.
garden in your front yard more so than they do in the middle of the forest. So in the midst of the garden, mushrooms meet that criteria. Then you've got the fact that it was good for food. Berries that are poisonous, kind of, you figure out real quick if they're poisonous or not. Mushrooms, however, it's hard to tell. There's so many, some look like others that are going to kill you. So it makes sense that there would have been a general taboo surrounding mushrooms. And God says, don't eat it, don't touch it, you'll die. And mushrooms fit that bill too. Then when we look, um, you know, uh, you shall not die. You'll think you're going to die, but you're not going to die. God told you you're going to die, but you're not going to die. It's called a
Mhm.
bluff. Everyone who's taken a big enough dose of mushrooms or even acid knows what to die, but not to die is and feels like. Ego death gets watered down a lot today. It's like a very watered down topic, but there's a kernel of truth in
Yeah.
there. And if you take a big
Total ego
enough dose,
dissolution. Yeah. Oh yeah.
you forget who you are, you die for a second, talk to God, become as gods, knowing good from evil. But all these are totally in line with the mushroom trip. Realizing you're naked. I mean, you know how many people whip their clothes off when they're on mushrooms and don't realize they're naked until after
Oh,
their
I
clothes are already
know.
off?
I mean, I realize it though, but yeah, they come off. But you're right
Yep.
about that. Yeah, people completely leave their body in a way.
Yep. And so dying without dying, being good for food, being when Eve looks at it, she goes, when the woman saw that the tree was good for food, mushrooms are extremely nutritious, and that it was pleasant to the eyes, kind of looks like a dick. I mean, you
Right.
know, and a tree to be desired to make one wise. Okay, well, that's nail in the coffin. You either have to take this, interpret this allegorically or symbolically, or you just have to admit it is a magic mushroom or some psychedelic substance. And I'll sing the praises of fruit endlessly, but does fruit make you wise at the drop of a hat? No.
I was gonna say it's not the orange.
Right. Mushrooms, however, are routinely credited by great thinkers, geniuses, influencers of society, artists, musicians, routinely credit magic mushrooms with fully enhancing their capabilities, um, facilitating their career and new way of thinking. So magic mushroom fits that bill too. And there's a whole bunch more to it, but you know,
What's your experience with mushrooms?
I've taken
Have you
about
taken
as
have you taken the philosopher's stone? Because that was one of the interesting things was it was called
no,
Tampa
yeah, I'm gonna
mushroom, and then
try.
it's also I need to get a hold of some of that philosopher's stone.
We're looking for it. I'm gonna try and get my hands on some. I'm gonna have
Yeah.
this this Florida mycologist reached out to me, and I think I'm going to have him on the channel for an interview in a couple days or weeks, maybe, and maybe he'll help me get some. But I'd love to try some.
Nice. What are you promoting tonight? Anything? Anything fun?
Um, Old World Florida. Like, what do you mean? Like,
You know what I mean? Like you got your channel, your
sure,
Instagram, follow you at
yeah,
anything you're working on,
sure.
anything to stay tuned for.
Old World Florida on YouTube. Old World Florida on Instagram. I'm on Rumble and Twitter too, or X, whatever. Um, I've also doesn't matter. I won't shill my products here, but we've got the Dancing Elephant.
Yeah, what's the
It's
name of the
the
bookstore?
bookstore that I work out of. My brother and I own it, and it's in
It's
Lake
like a
Worth.
metaphysical.
Yep, Lake Worth Beach.
Do you sell stuff
Crystals,
besides crystal? Or I was gonna say, okay, crystals and
books, crystals, tarot cards,
nice. What do you have a
bunch
favorite? Do you
incense.
have a favorite tarot? Do you have a favorite tarot set?
Yeah, the Aleister Crowley, the Thoth deck.
I have an. It's not a traditional tarot deck, but I have an Osho deck. I like
Nice.
that one.
Yeah, we sell those too. That's a big popular one. I love Osho. Love them.
Do you? That's good. Yeah, I think we agree on most things. But I had to play a little devil's advocate tonight, and I could talk to you for hours. Oh, and
Thanks,
by the
man.
way, I'm gonna be there at some point, whether I move back or not. But before when I asked you to float, you didn't know anything really about it. But I think obviously now you haven't floated yet, have you?
No, sir.
All right. What part of Florida are you in? You're in like what, West Palm Beach?
Yep.
Nice. Okay, there's definitely some float centers down there.
Yeah, what the hell are you
So
doing
yeah,
outside of Florida, man?
women.
Okay, well, whatever,
Uh,
but fucking get over here, dude. Why are you in the hostile zone? You're in Wisconsin?
it was called the hostel zone. Why is that?
It's hostile to human life
But why though?
because winter will kill you if you're not prepared for it.
Well, that's okay. So that's one thing I've learned. Basically, living in Florida my whole life, barely experiencing snow, except for this year, of course. So there was, like I said, I lived in Japan for a little bit in Atlanta, and there was obviously
Nice.
seasons. But Florida, as you know, it's basically like a 20 degree swing of like I don't know 65 to 85 most of the year, and then everything else is like actually probably it's closer to 90 95, depending on what part of Florida. But the
Mhm.
point is, you're absolutely right. It is the fountain of youth. The dry skin shit alone, like I said, when I moved here, I didn't know anything about dry skin because if you, Florida, I've never used lotion or chapstick. Dear God, did I
Yeah.
learn a thing? And in the flying too, that really is bad for your health and the stress it puts on your body in an unnatural
Yeah.
way. That pressurized tube at that
Well, in,
altitude.
in Wisconsin, you've got higher max temperatures than anywhere in Florida. You're gonna
Oh,
hit
I believe
100. You're
it.
gonna hit 115 this summer. You have every summer
That's
for
what.
the last 1,000 years.
Well, that's what I found
Wisconsin.
interesting going through your content again today was that how much of a like perfect zone because when you're living there it's like god damn man it's so humid and hot but it does kind of stay in like a very comfortable
Right.
zone but you do have to get used to the humidity though that's one thing you can't get around in Florida.
Well, here's the thing, Float. Adam and Eve didn't have clothes, so the less clothes you can wear, the better. If you're dressing like New England, yeah, you're gonna be miserable. If you're dressing like Wisconsin, yeah, you're gonna be miserable. But you know this, you're from here.
It's you're absolutely right it's extreme here and you can see it in the people and their lifestyle and like I'll tell you the sun going down at 4 p.m. And it's weird now too like it's June, and it's still like a little bit of 50s and low 60s, which is not bad. Obviously, if that's actually great, but it's like, dear God, does it ever get hot here? So, but you're right. When it does get hot, it will get that extreme that Florida doesn't usually come close to. Florida,
No.
what stays around like in the like 85, 95 degree zone
Yeah.
most of the time.
So there's a couple parts of Florida that hit 100 degrees here and there. But Miami, you'd probably place pretty high on the list of hottest cities in the world, right? Well,
That's what I thought today before I listened to you again. Yeah.
It has only ever passed 99 degrees a single time in Miami. A single
Yeah,
time.
it blew my
And that was
mind.
like World War II. So the Gulf Stream keeps it so uh, fresh. The air is so fresh. We have water on both sides. There's
Well,
no
that's the thing
room.
too.
There's no hot air.
You know, there's always that breeze growing up on Cocoa Beach, Melbourne.
Yeah.
You get into Orlando and it's not as good. You know, there's no rivers and you're not as close to the sea
Yeah.
breeze. But Florida's actually a pretty skinny peninsula.
Right. So you'll have to forgive me if I was a little moody today. I haven't eaten anything today, and I haven't
No, that's
smoked
good. I think
haven't
it.
smoked any pot today either, which is
I was gonna say I also
terrible.
heard like things it was like you recommend orange juice, which I went and bought someday because I haven't had some in a while, and then because the orange juice here obviously isn't that great, but and then you're like you recommend smoking weed, so I'm like
Oh fuck
okay, I
yeah!
guess you're still about it. Now, do you grow your own or you dispensary? Black market?
I don't have time
What's
for that.
happening?
You want me to be a pot farmer and make the best YouTube videos in the history of planet
I
Earth?
know, right? It's a lot of work, and it's not legal.
I want to throw you a little bone here about the Lord's holy incense, and maybe we can end with this because we're probably winding down here. Um,
Yeah, it sounds good. I think we're right just a little over 2 hours.
so I'm going to pull open a verse right here, Exodus 30. So God does not only approve of cannabis use, he somewhat demands it. I kid you not. There's a reason cannabis goes by the name of cannabis, canna anubis, canna
Dog.
anubis, canine anubis.
Hmm.
What's the takeaway here? Man's best friend. The dog is your servant and best friend in the physical world. Cannabis is your best friend and servant in the mental world. It's
I'm a
impossible.
fan.
It is impossible to abuse cannabis. It's nearly
You
impossible.
think so? You think
It's
so? You don't think that like I could be completely unbalanced with it, and not that it's doing something at a high level, but the byproduct of it, which is being too lazy, eating too much, or
no,
maybe
that's
some my self loathing's amplified.
yeah.
You know what I mean? Because
So
I sit with it and I'm like, the first two hits, it's like, oh, okay, this is magical. And then I keep going with it. And it just feels like I go down and down and down the more I smoke. No,
I don't know, man. I
I
cannot
guess we're all different.
I cannot sympathize with that or put myself in that
Well,
place
marijuana is an
because
interesting thing because
yeah.
why? Well, I
Um
see marijuana on a scale of all the drugs, right? And you've got different quadrants of like antidepressants, psychedelics. It's like the whole all the different drugs and where they fall on this spectrum. Marijuana is dead center because it can be all of them. It can be psychedelic. It can give you anxiety. It can give you, it can relieve anxiety. It can be good for depression. It can be bad for depression. It's all over the place. It's very hard to classify. But I would consider it a classic psychedelic. Would you consider it a psychedelic?
of course, yeah. Terrence McKenna talks
Okay.
about taking a rip of hash after like a 2 week tolerance break. He's like,
Hmm.
take a rip of hash, um, big rip of hash or strong weed after no weed for like 2 weeks, or I don't know. If you've never done weed, then even better.
Right.
But
He
take
he
that
he
and go
advocated
in a
a
dark room, and that's as good as a mushroom trip,
oh
according to him.
oh I agree. But he would give that advice, but he would also admit that he could not do it himself. He would be such a marijuana addict.
Right. Yeah.
He
Good
admitted many
point.
times that he definitely smoked it more than he would say would be the like you said 2 weeks
No, well,
balance. That's what I mean, like being
it's a good
balanced with
point.
it.
Well, no, the daily use is a benefit in its own right, but the dosage, like the heavy dosage use, you need 2 weeks just to get yourself there to where it hits you like a psychedelic. He just said that he loves weed so much that he could never stop for 2 weeks to get that point. Like
Exactly. That's where
it's
I'm at.
Right. Well, yeah, if you're getting what you need out of it, you don't need that
Self-discipline
effect.
and
Psychedelic drugs are, you know, abused way too much today. Most people only need one experience. You go, in
well,
ancient times they had the Eleusinian mysteries. You're only allowed to go
right.
once in your whole life. They knew the dangers of, why all the greatest gurus and yogis and masters and, saints that there's ever been, they all have the same consensus when it comes to psychedelics. It is a coconut to the head. You're walking down the street and you're living a vicious life full of vice and wrongdoings. Then you get a coconut to the head, knocks you unconscious. You talk to God. You see different colors and geometric patterns. Then you come to, you might even know Chinese now because it activates that part of your brain. That stuff happens
Mhm.
all the time. Get hit in the head and boom, shift of brain
Oh yeah,
chemistry, shift
some kind
of
of savant. Yeah.
now magic mushrooms, any of them, LSD, all this stuff. It's so strong. It's a coconut to the head. One coconut to the head can be amazing for a man. It can be exactly what he needs. The stroke of, of fate. Boom. God hit you with what you needed. When you go back to the coconut tree and stand under it and say, please, one more, it's foolish. Very foolish. One coconut to the head can change a man's life for the better. Two coconuts to the head, now we're talking about danger. Three coconuts to the head, you're lucky if you make it out, alive.
No, I get it.
I'm
Oh
being
well, I'm a
dramatic,
miracle
but
then. I've had 20 million coconuts to the head by that metric. How many coconuts to the head have you ever had, or if any?
that's funny. Um, yeah, last time we talked, I told you that I smoked salvia one time by accident before I ever did mushrooms.
That's right.
I did mushrooms a lot in high school. I loved doing mushrooms, I love doing LSD too. We had a really good connect.
Yeah,
I'm
that's right.
very
Yeah,
lucky to say that I had a friend who was a LSD dealer. So I got really good stuff.
yeah, that's the
And
best.
and
Well, yeah, you say you've had a few coconuts to the head.
yeah, I've had plenty of coconuts to the head. Um, I'm just saying, if you got to be careful with those heavy doses
Oh,
because
absolutely. So you
right.
don't do them anymore?
I in the least like pretentious way possible. I just don't feel like I need to, smoking. I feel like I
No,
need to smoke
totally.
weed. Feel like I need to smoke weed because I'm a very like hot-blooded person. Like I get into, you
Me
know,
too. I think it makes me a better person in terms of like being not less of an asshole,
dude,
less like curt to the point and all that.
do you know what there's exactly perfectly. I couldn't agree more. The
You
epiphanies
know,
and revelations I've had from a single toke of weed are stronger and more impactful, more meaningful, more bestowing of wisdom than all of my psychedelic experiences combined. A single hit of weed,
just one hit.
I
Yeah.
I've treated people unjustly, just in like conversation, like an asshole, like, you know, um, it's hard to even think, but just like not being my nicest, best person for no reason.
Oh yeah.
Marijuana immediately calls you out on
It's like
that. I've wronged people like very slightly. I'm not saying I'm like a bad guy, but I've wronged people and I didn't feel bad about it one bit. And then 15 minutes later, I take a smoke of cannabis and I am immediately confronted with my wrongdoings, clear as day. So cannabis holds you to a higher standard. That's why it's so discomforting
make
for a
make
lot of people.
makes you more empathetic.
Well, maybe. Um, I'll tell you
I
though,
mean,
it is the nectar of saints, prophets, poets, musicians, great
I
thinkers.
wish I had enough to like grind it up and eat it and like juice it. Apparently, you can juice it, and that's supposed to be really good for you. But obviously, you need a lot of it, and you need to grow it yourself. Because one of the issues with weed is, the same thing with the food supply. What's in it? What kind of GMO or
I don't know about
pesticides
that.
or
The fruit and the flower of an organism is the most protected part.
so even
A
so
tree.
so dispensary weed. Does dispensary weed okay then?
No, I went to Canada recently. I get some okay weed from friends. I have one friend who gets me organic stuff when it's available. But I do my best. And I'll tell you though, when I went to Canada and all there was dispensary, like, or legal,
Mm.
recreational weed. That stuff was just, it's not the same. It's not the same.
I'm a
Street
Florida
weed
medic.
in Florida is some of the best I've ever had.
Oh well, yeah. If you find the right kind of like street weed, but I'm a Florida. I'm sure you're a dispenser or a medical card holder in the great state of Florida as well.
No, no, I'm not.
No, no,
It's for
no.
pussies.
Oh,
Hell no. What are they gonna do? When I'm
well,
buying when I'm buying an assault rifle, what are they gonna do? They're gonna look up my
no.
info and be like, "Oh, he has anxiety. Oh, he
Well,
has back spasms. Oh, he
I'll tell
has."
you. I'll tell you a
I'd
story.
rather have the assault rifle.
All right. So one day I was driving. I hate this is a terrible story, but one day I was driving to the dispensary, mind you, and I was smoking weed in the car. And it was probably like a 10-minute drive. It was in like Castleberry area, Altamont. Actually, yeah, no, that was exactly what it was. And so I got pulled over by a cop, and I'm like, the car's full of weed, the joint's still burning, and I just like was super calm. But I'm like, you know what? I'm probably gonna go to jail now. So just relax into it and let go. And I didn't even get. He pulled me over for speeding, obviously, but I didn't even get a speeding ticket, let alone because I had the card. I had a, floor. You're not obviously allowed to smoke weed in your car, but I truly believe if I didn't have that card, I would have been in handcuffs. The weed, the medical marijuana card.
Well,
You know what I mean? Like if it was,
I'll one up your float. I was coming back home from the beach a couple months ago, and I got pulled over for stopping at a red light and then turning red because you weren't allowed to turn red at this red light. So
okay,
I stopped, turned red, and then made it like a mile down the street. And then this guy turns his lights on behind me. I had no clue why. And then he tells me, "Yeah, you didn't run the red light. You stopped at the red light and then turned right, but you're not allowed to turn right. You have to wait for the green." Some stupid shit. I
nitpicking,
was
yeah.
I was fucking hotboxed like crazy. And I was ripping. I have like a little bong that fits in my cup holder like perfectly. That's my style. And I got pulled over. I thought he was going to come to the driver's side door. So I put
Mm,
my bong and all my shit, and it was still smoking. Put it in this paper bag, and I put it in the passenger seat. So he didn't have a good angle to see into the
right.
bag. This motherfucker comes up to the passenger window and
Mm.
I roll it down, and he's looking right at the bong, and he goes, "Yeah, dude, you ran the red light, or you turned red. You shouldn't have." Gave me a ticket. Didn't say shit about the weed. So
Well,
Florida's
that's good.
pretty.
They're letting go, prosecuting that. Yeah.
I mean, even when I was in high school, well, you're from Central Florida. They throw the book at people more
Yeah.
towards
Oh, I will.
Melbourne area.
Satellite Beach. Yeah, Cocoa Beach, Satellite Beach, especially
Yeah,
Satellite Beach. Don't speed down A1A and Satellite Beach because they will get you good. And
yeah.
yeah, if you got drugs, they will go for it.
Palm Beach
But
County, they
it's
don't
one of the
really.
drug capitals. Well,
Yeah,
yeah.
they don't
Well,
really care in
Palm
Palm
Beach
Beach
County
County.
is a different. Palm Beach County is a
Tax
different
bracket.
vibe. Exactly. That's Trump. That's rich people.
Yeah.
Wow, man. Well, you've really got the Florida juices going, and I do miss the humidity. People are always like, I don't want to. I hate the bugs and the roaches. Everybody always talks about the roaches in Florida from these other states, Illinois, Wisconsin. They have their own bugs, but they just don't like the roaches. People, the flying cockroach of Florida.
Right. Yeah, I'm trying to find you this Bible verse about
Do you think the Earth is a spheroidal thing, or do you think there's something else, like it's a realm or
it's flat.
it's a flat,
It's flat. Yeah.
literally, yeah.
It's
But
straight.
maybe it's so. maybe the sphere or maybe the spheroid thing is so big, and there's an ice wall around what we think is it's almost so big that it seems flat, but it's not quite flat either. Or it's not
Right.
quite, you know what I mean? It's
Kind
so
of
big.
kind of like Nancy Pelosi's titties, I guess you're saying.
Yeah, exactly.
So
It's an as above, so below thing.
no, there's the Earth is flat. It's not round in the slightest. There's
I
mountains
think it's
and
like an
hills.
uh,
No, that's
I think it's
stupid.
like an eyeball. I think it's like an eyeball
That's
because
stupid.
that's the most. No, it's the most as above, so below you can get. It's like
That's not true.
okay.
The tree. You go look at the cosmology of every ancient
oh,
culture
the
there's ever
tree
been.
stuff is good.
The
Yeah, I
tree.
like the tree.
The
Yeah,
tree
I like that too.
goes. There's a tree at the North Pole, at the center of the world. There's no South Pole. There's a center. So maybe, when you're saying an eyeball, you could be right, like the North Pole is the pupil. But
Right.
in terms of elevation, it's not convex or concaved. It is flat. And
I think it's
it's
like the
not
Bible says, like the stamp. It's like you press a stamp down, and it's like I forget the actual the verse, but it's basically like a wax stamp. That there's an in. You push a wax into a wax seal. You push a thing into a thing. That's what
yeah.
the Earth is.
Okay.
Like it's a
Well,
recessed, and
when
then
they
and
tell
there's the
us
ice wall.
when they tell us that there's a tree at the center of everything, it's not a physical tree. It's not the real tree. It's not bark and leaves. The tree at the center of it all is the Yggdrasil, which is lizard backwards, lizard egg backwards, but it's Yggdrasil, which is maybe the
Lizard
lizard
egg.
egg. Yeah, lizard
That's
egg
funny.
backwards. Yggdrasil. But Yggdrasil is the tree at the middle of it all. Now, this tree is not at the North Pole, like physical, like I said. It's not bark or leaf, but it is at the middle of everything. It's at the middle of everything. In the middle of the cells, middle of the atom, there's a tree. It's the toroidal field. The toroidal field is the tree. When you're looking at
I agree
the
with the toroidal
when
field.
you're looking at the
Absolutely.
cross section of the toroidal field, the upper spread is the branches. Downward, it comes out at the
Oh wow!
bottom.
So the
Those
toroidal
are the
field is a
roots.
tree.
Yes, and the
That's
Yggdrasil, the
cool.
center of everything, is the tree that comes up, comes back around, comes up, right? Now that
Yep.
is the tree at the center of it all. In the middle of this, a lot of people will say, well, hey, toroid field is a circle, so we live in a circle or we live in a sphere. No, 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 no. There's a disk in the middle of the toroidal field, which is
The
called,
toroidal field. So is that the dome?
yes, there's a
Or
dome
is
that's
that its own?
above, but it's not like a glass dome that you can just poke. That's very materialistic. It's a
Well,
sphere
so
of
it's
influence.
some kind of metaphysical water,
Well, God separated the
isn't that?
matter. He separated the matter from the matter. The water's in the water. Water is the gold standard of matter. Everything's compared against water. Flavor is compared to water. Weight is compared to water. Mass is compared to water. Or you understand? Water is the basis for matter. We use it
Right.
as synonymous with matter
Uh,
because it's hang
it's the
on,
core building block.
hang on. It's liquid, solid, and gaseous, all at room temperature around the Earth. So it's the gold standard for the degrees of matter. When God said He separated the waters from the waters, He's not separating water, this type of water, from that type of water. He's separating matter from matter. He's separating the ice from the water, from the steam. He's separating the levels of matter. Just look at the word water. Flip that W upside down. That's matter. Water,
Nice.
madre, material, matter, water, all the same word. Up there is father. It's the mother down there. It's the father up there. Every
Yeah.
culture that's ever been in the world has pointed up to the sky and said he. They look down at the ground and they say she. Up there it's father, fire, air, ether,
Nice.
father. You gotta have faith, right? And Jupiter is the father. Jupiter rules fat. Jupiter rules distance and traveling. So fathoms, fathom something. It's a measurement distance. So the father, the mother, all the words tell us this. Studying words is the man's original function. If we're not studying
You know
words, we're
what's
not.
interesting
Well,
is the this always sticks with me that the sky, right, which you say is father, inseminates the ground, like the rain, and that's why Mother Earth, because that's where the life springs from after the insemination. So I swore you were going to say that, but you never went there.
no, it's a good one. I've never worked that into
And
to
then little
my
penises pop out of the ground. The mushrooms. They look like penises, and every fertility call, it's a mushroom.
right. Yeah, well, gnosis is sex and psychedelic experiences. So, tree of
Mm,
knowledge is the tree of gnosis. To Adam knew his wife, did he not? He didn't bang her.
right.
He knew her. To know something, to know the truth is to make love to reality. To make, not to get gay for God. Let's get gay for God, guys. You know.
Oh man, I got to get back to Florida so we can float.
Well, last thing, and then I've got to hop off here.
Yeah, yeah.
Is
Last thing.
the Lord's holy incense. Exodus chapter 30, verse 25. You're gonna love this. And I'm gonna go spark up right when I'm done. My girlfriend just picked up some pot for us. Fucking thank God. And
All
for real,
right,
if I've been extra bristly, it's because I'm
that makes
grape
for good content. I like it.
makes grape juice. I'm on grape juice fast right now. Or grapefruit juice.
How
Excuse
many
me.
days have you been fasting on grape juice?
Just today, I woke up and I took a nap, which is unlike me, and I usually sleep very very little. Like 4 or 5 hours usually is all I need.
You're
And
high energy. Yeah,
well,
that lifestyle will do it to you. I do agree. Vibrationally, all that stuff pulls you down for a
so
fact.
we're going to talk about cannabis here. This is the last thing, but you mentioned that it
Right.
drags you down. If there's anything that I can impart to people, and this isn't like a patronizing thing or anything, you know, you may have what you love more than I. You know what I mean? You may be doing what you love way more and way better than I do what I love. But the only thing I'd impart to anyone out there is find what you love, find what you're best at. If they're not the same thing, it's not what you love. You love what you're best at. God designed you that way. Your passion is your gift to the world. And when you truly have a grip on your passion and your place and your goals and where you're going in life, what you want to do, what you want to achieve, things that you want to change in the world, if you truly set your sights on these, if you are doing what you love and actively, you know, helping people with it, you cannot get forced to sleep. Sleep is the enemy. Sleep is the
Mm.
thief of life. When you know what you're doing and when you love what you do and you feel like you're on your true path, I wake up and you have to take my laptop away from me. All I want to do is get right back to work. Right back to work. It's the last thing I do before I go
That's
to sleep.
interesting. That's
I
interesting. Wow.
I love what I do, and cannabis helps me do it. So when I wake up, I go to the bathroom and I go right to my laptop and I get started. And that is how you get good at something. That's how you're the best in your field. And I'm sure you know this too, but this is cannabis
Well,
helps me do this. And you're saying
it's
you smoke
interesting.
more and more and it gets you down. When I smoke, it only invigorates me more towards
Right.
my
So
passions. So it's
it's
passion which
interesting, dude. It's so interesting that you know, put it out that way because today I was asking myself, I'm like, is the stuff I'm doing making, am I blaming it on marijuana thinking it's bringing me down, or is just I'm not, like you said, on that path of true, that crossroads of where, what is it, passion and talent meet? Is that what it was?
yep, that's a good way to
Um,
say it.
where, I'm not at that crossroads, obviously, because if I was, I would feel like, because it's like, okay, well, if it's not the weed, then maybe it's just what I'm doing, or my station in life currently is not, like I said, at that crossroads. So, good point. And like I said, that's a good way, some good final words there, especially it spoke right
Well,
to me. So I'm sure.
my my final words would be this, which is the biblical justification. Since we've been talking, I've been trying to find this one good verse, and here it is. So
Nice.
Exodus chapter 30. Let us begin. And thou shalt make an altar to burn incense upon. Of shittim wood shalt thou make it. And blah, blah, blah. He's talking about, there essentially, early on, God tells the Israelites to make a tent, to make the tabernacle. Tabernacle is just a tent, or like a cabana, like a, little thing. Well, in Exodus chapter 30, verse 25, we find out what the type of incense that God wants them to burn is. Chapter 30, verse 25. Moreover, the Lord spake unto Moses. So we're verse 22 here. Take thou also unto the principal spices of pure. Oh, well, actually, I should go back a little bit because they're dealing with the Ark of the Covenant here. And anyone who did not use this oil and sacred incense was subject to death or punishment for being around the Ark of the Covenant. Now let's find out what the ingredients were to this. And the Lord spake unto Moses, saying, See. Oh no, shit. No, that's sorry. Moreover, the Lord spake unto Moses, saying, Take thou also unto the principal spices of pure myrrh, 500 shekels, and of sweet cinnamon, half so much, even 250 shekels of sweet calamus, 250 shekels, and of cassia, 500 shekels, after the shekel of the sanctuary, and of oil, olive, and hin. And thou shalt make it an oil of holy ointment. Holy ointment. An ointment compound after the art of the apothecary. It shall be an holy anointing oil. And thou shalt anoint the tabernacle of the congregation therewith, and the ark of the testimony, and the table and all his vessels, and the candlestick and his vessels, and the altar of incense, and the altar of burnt offering with all his vessels, and the laver and his foot. And thou shalt sanctify him, what they may be most holy. Whatsoever toucheth them shall be holy. And thou shalt anoint Aaron and his sons, and consecrate them, that they may minister unto me in the priest's office. And thou shalt speak unto the children of Israel, saying, This shall be an holy anointing oil unto me throughout your generations. Upon man's flesh shall it not be poured, neither shall ye make any other like it. After the composition of it, it is holy, and it shall be holy unto you. Whosoever compoundeth any like it, or whosoever putteth any of it upon a stranger, shall even be cut off from his people. And the Lord said unto Moses, Take unto these sweet spices, staked in. Oh, it doesn't matter. I'll go back a little bit. So you get the picture on there. When they go a little bit earlier, chapter 30, verse 17, and the Lord spake unto Moses, saying, Thou shalt also make a laver of brass, and his foot also of brass, to wash withal, and thou shalt put it between the tabernacle of the congregation and the altar, and thou shalt put water therein. For Aaron and his sons shall wash their hands and their feet thereat. When they go into the tabernacle of the congregation, they shall wash with water, and they die not. Or when they come near to the altar to minister, to burn offering made by fire unto the Lord, so they shall wash their hands and their feet, that they die not. And it shall be a statute forever to them, even to him and to his seed throughout their generations. Then it picks up with the other thing that I just said. So what's the main ingredients here? Take thou also unto the principal spices of pure myrrh, 500 shekels, of sweet cinnamon, half so much, 250 shekels of sweet calamus, 250 shekels, and of cassia, 500 shekels. So we've got two types of cinnamon so far. You've got myrrh two types of cinnamon. The base is olive oil. You need your fats. And then what's calamus? What's the active ingredient? Cannabis. Clear as day. It's not my interpretation. It's the original interpretation. You
I've
go
never heard of
to
calamus before until now.
you go to the original Greek, ancient Greek and Hebrew. Calamus was translated into the Septuagint, which is an old Greek Bible. It's a bad translation. It's a bad translation. Many biblical scholars say don't trust this one on all the details. It's a bad translation. That's where you get the word calamus. Do you know what calamus was written in the Bible as prior to then? Cannabism. Cannabism
Ah,
and cannabu. Cannabu,
nice.
cannabism, and cannabis became calamus because the Greeks were not very familiar
Ah,
with cannabis. The Scythians used
right.
cannabis. The Scythians are the progenitors of Semitic people, hence why the Semites were smoking weed and the Greeks weren't.
I didn't even know they
Um,
had cannabis in the old world until I thought it was a new world discovery.
no, it's old world. Cannabis is was absent from the New World.
But I guess
Or
though India had it for probably what thousands of years.
yeah, that's where they say it's from, like around there. But the Scythians used cannabis. They smoked it in tents, like they hotboxed. What we were just
Hmm.
hearing there was the description of a hotbox.
Right.
Moses and the boys
Wow.
go into the tabernacle and hotbox cannabis. This is a fact. And
This is in
they they
what book of the Bible?
Exodus.
Exodus. Okay.
They made two
Hot box
things
in
with
the
cannabis.
desert.
Yep. They made the holy anointing oil, which is what I just read to you. The ingredients was cannabis is the active ingredient. Olive oil is the carrier oil. It's the vehicle.
Right.
It's the
Yeah.
fat that you dissolve all this into. Or, if you take dry spices and throw them onto hot coals, it just chars into white smoke. It smells
Right.
like Burger King. It doesn't smell like the spices. So you need a slow burn. You need a carrying agent, which
Hmm.
is the olive oil. But then what's the cassia for? Why two types of cinnamon? Well,
Yeah.
cinnamon on its own doesn't do anything to the brain. But cinnamon is a proven to intensify the effects of any drug that you take it with. It's a fact.
Ah, wow. Look at that. Drug hack.
So, two types of cinnamon. Well, they wanted to intensify the effects. Cinnamon ensures that the blood
Ooh.
getting pumped out of your heart reaches every corner of your body with an increased, like circulation. So cinnamon increases circulation and it does various things to the body. It agitates and excites various parts of the body in a good way,
Mm.
which intensifies highs. So when you take
Okay.
cannabis or take anything, if you eat cinnamon with it, it'll hit you faster. It'll hit every part of your body equally. And that was the goal. And they made oil with it that was psychoactive. You just touch this oil and you get high. And what they did was they didn't, they coated every single thing in the tabernacle, the Ark of the Covenant, all the little instruments, like the little paraphernalia, like the gold candlesticks and all this stuff.
Hmm.
Everything was coated with this cannabis oil. So literally, even if you weren't involved in the initial smoking or the building or the mixing of these ingredients, you just walk in for a procession and you grab the candlestick, you get stoned. You're touching all
Right.
these things around and they're coated with highly active cannabis oil and they're getting stoned. So it's hard to talk to God without use of agents, chemical agents like that. And it's not even a cheat code. It's not like some bad thing. It's not some backdoor access. God works through incentives. We procreate because it feels good. You eat because it tastes good.
Oh
You
yeah,
smoke.
definitely. You're
You
definitely
sm-
incentivized.
right.
Definitely.
Within
Definitely.
within reason. Heroin feels good too, but
That's a discussion for another time. Man,
that's
this has
it.
been a good one. That was great. No, I'm gonna. Have you ever tried the cinnamon recipe?
A lot. Yeah.
So
I've
so
done, I've done that a
all you,
lot. Yeah.
all you need to do is add some what's the other one? The orange not melon. It's there's another fruit you can eat before like a half hour before and it intensifies it. What's it
Mango,
called?
mango, and
Mango.
orange.
Boom.
Well,
Yes.
orange is like that too. You drink orange juice, you get
Mango.
higher. Yeah.
See, the part of Florida, I guess they probably grow all over Florida, but mango season in Florida when they're just falling off the trees. Oh my God. So
Yeah.
good.
Yeah. That's right now. They're coming.
The fruit of the
But
gods is the orange, though, right? In your world.
it's liquid sunshine. Proven.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Liquid sunshine.
Oh, that's what I tell people too. I agree. I called it that before I came into into your contact with your content. Was I always said it was liquid sunshine. So that's cool.
It's the best way to
Yeah,
start
man.
your day.
Your content's great. Obviously, I'm a fan of long form. When I say long form, I say probably anything over 10 minminutes. You got some short clips too, but you have a lot of long form. Yeah, I'd say probably what average of what 20 to 30 minutes, but you do have some hour long ones plus hour long ones. You could really just go to town on an afternoon, a couple afternoons in your YouTube channel. So I highly recommend and follow you on Instagram too, all your updates and you do meetups too. Like how have those been going?
They're great. We usually have anywhere from 20 to 50 people show up, and it's really fun. Every full
It's
moon, we do them in a different city in Florida. So keep an eye out,
nice.
y'all.
Where's the next one?
It's probably going to be right here because my van's broken down. My van broke down
Okay.
going to the last one. So
Is that what you were doing? Just driving across the state?
yeah, the last
That's
meetup,
cool.
my van broke down on the way too. So this one's going to be close. This one's going to be
You got any
probably
cool
here.
stuff about? You got any cool facts about Melbourne, Florida? Any ancient history or biblical or
Well, I mean, Jim Morrison.
Brevard?
Jim Morrison was born here.
Yeah, that's right.
Uh,
His his
Ride the
his
King's
birthplace is still there.
Highway.
His
The
birthplace is still there. It's a
crawling
motel.
king snake. Ride the King's Highway West. That's Melbourne. The King's Highways is
Oh, you're right. Look
right
at
there.
that.
Yeah. In
His
the
dad was
end,
also the Gulf of Tonkin guy.
right. Yeah. And a lot of those Indian spirits he's talking about, I know that happened like up in the Northeast or whatever, but or somewhere else, not in Florida, but his Indian experience. But to think that he wasn't also in contact with native Floridian spirits, being like a
Well, he was
shaman
born right on
poet,
the river there too. Like it's like
right?
literally right on the river.
Yeah,
That's
he was born in Temecula territory, pretty much.
yeah. You can still stay there to this day. It's a motel. It says
Me-
birthplace of Jim Morrison.
Yep. I went to the same jail
Cool.
as him too, Tallahassee.
Oh, nice. Yeah, Florida's got a lot of good stuff. I'm again like I lived here my whole life and I ran into your stuff and it's like, oh my God, I need to stay and explore. Because I can't tell you how many times, I'm glad I remembered to talk about this. I've seen an, an ancient anchor from Atlantis or something with a giant, perfectly cut hole or like a board through the middle, or it's an ancient anchor. I'm like, oh wait, it's not. It's their front yard decoration. Like there's a road in Brevard called Tropical Trail. It's right down the river. All the rich people's houses, and a lot of them have ancient anchors. I'm like, oh shit, look at
Yep,
this.
the status
I don't
symbol.
even think they know though, but maybe they know. Who knows?
Yeah.
Because I've never heard of this stuff until you. And
Well,
I've lived in Florida my whole life. I've never heard of ancient anchors
right.
from giants.
We've got a lot
Giant
of
ships.
liars, a lot of liars writing the history books.
Well,
So
that's I was listening to one of your podcasts and it was like, yeah, we gotta. They're so invested in upholding their narrative that they'll never take any. Like this is so legit, it's not even funny. Like you have so much proof, and just goes on and on and on the rabbit hole of. It's like also appalling how much you've been lied to,
right,
or some people are I think are unconscious gatekeepers. Like they mean well, but they don't even know what they're participating in. But
of
there are
course.
obviously nefarious
They're
people.
called meat eaters.
Right.
Your Alex Jones truthers, your barbecue truth squad is very
Yeah.
materialistic. Meat eaters are
Yeah.
confined to the material. They don't see the heavens above. Um, it
So
traps
I
you
guess no more
in the lower
cheese,
chakras.
no more milk and eggs for me after this podcast, at least for a
Well,
while.
hey, milk's not going to, tarnish your soul. Eggs are a
Well,
little
that's
bit of
good.
a gray area. Milk's not going to tarnish your soul. I just think we're not meant to grow that
Thank
big.
God.
That's why it
I've
makes
been covering it in it.
you know,
I'm glad it's not tarnishing my soul because it would be completely covered at this point. Milk has gotten me through some tough times, man. A2 milk too. A2 milk completely changed my life because it's like, well, I can drink milk again because it's not turning me into this bloated mess. I'm not lactose intolerant, but man, it's
well,
like tomato sauce. And I can't eat tomato sauce anymore. It's too acidic.
milk's also, come on, man. That's weak. You're stronger
Milk's
than that.
acidic.
What did your parent, what your, every man in your family has fought wars, has chopped the heads off of invaders, have conquered lands, have traversed empires, changed continents, and you're sitting here saying that the tomatoes hurt your tummy?
It's a total first world problem right there.
Exactly.
But I think actually over the past month, doing some probiotic stuff, it's actually that doesn't is not so much the case.
Well,
I think my gut was just inflamed for.
I'll tell you though, it's there is truth to that. Like tomato, it can be a very problematic food. When I got a colonic, uh, you get to see everything that comes out, right?
Oh man, you got a water colonic,
Yeah,
like where they stick the tube up and you can just sit there and watch it. I've always wanted to
yeah.
do one of those, but I'm like, I've seen too
That's
many
what.
people like, oh no, don't do it. It's not going to do anything.
Oh my God, that's stupid.
You would think it does though. It's like wow, all that impacted.
Yes.
Especially I hear this all the time with meat eaters. It's meat eaters have a lot of impacted,
Yep.
dead stuff in there.
Yep. They weigh a good 20 pounds more than people their same size who are vegetarian. There's lots of celebrities who've been found with pounds and pounds of waste stuck in their colon, and it gets uh, whatever. The Jesus was curing the blind and healing the sick and curing leprosy and all this stuff. He was probably him, not him personally, but him and his school and his followers were administering colonics. 1,000,000%. Jesus was an Essene. There's very few things that can cure the blind in a single.
Oh, so you're not you can't point to a specific instance where it's like this is definitely him giving a colonic. You're just saying
That's
the
baptism,
what he's
washing the
well,
feet.
that's
Baptism. It's
I mean that's a little bit of a stretch.
casting out the serpents and worms from the
Oh,
temple.
I agree with
Jesus
that.
chased. There's multiple layers to this. He chased out the money changers, who are the Pharisees and the insurance salesmen and the bankers and the lawyers.
Parasites.
Parasites is the same word as Pharisee.
Oh,
Pharisee.
oh, nice. That's a good
Pharisee
one.
is
Wow, I'm
parasite,
gonna use
and
that one.
Pharisee is the same as parasite. Parasites impair your sight. That's why
Oh
the blind
wow, this is some Gary Busey level shit here tonight. I love it.
parasites will take away your vision. First, they take away this vision. Then they take
Oh, I
away
agree.
then they take away your real
I
vision.
know. Oh,
So a small
I
parasitic infestation is a shut off third eye. A large parasitic infestation is being blind, leprosy.
I think yeah. Well, yeah, I think a full parasitic infection is demonic control.
Yeah, and you only
I
get
think that for
parasites from one
demons.
place, by the way. Red meat, pork.
Oh, I just thought it was unclean living in general. Not
No,
not
no.
just food, but actually a manifestation of lifestyle too. Like if you
Uh,
live as like an unclean drug addict, but you're like
yeah,
vegan, you're
but
still gonna get.
I'd say in this instance, the chicken has to come before the egg. Um, you welcome parasites into your body, and they ruin your thought process. So,
No, totally.
you know, eating meat gives you
I
parasites. That's why number one reason why
I
people should stay away from it.
I agree. As much as I enjoy a good steak, I 100% agree. I'm basically speaking as a meat addict at this point, relative to you. But so wait, so before we end, there was a point where you said to hell with meat. Like, were you, or you never just ate meat at all,
I never liked
basically your whole
steak,
life?
never liked steak or pork. My parents used to have to make me eat it. But when I was 18, I moved out of, my mom's house and went to college for a semester, marine biology in the Florida Keys. And I went vegetarian. I had a friend who was a vegetarian. He was actually pretty much a raw vegan. He ate nothing but fruit smoothies, banana. He'd get a 50, I don't know if it was pounds or 50 bananas, but he'd get a crate of
Right.
like 50 stalks of bananas from Trader Joe's. They used to sell them by the crate. Before Trader Joe's was like kind of popular. It was more of almost like a supply store kind of, at least down here. And for like, strange things. And he'd get these bananas by the crate, bring him to his house. He'd eat nothing but um, bananas, fruit smoothies with banana, and rice with jalapeno, like powdered jalapeno and fresh jalapeno. He was big on spice being a component of health. And this was the healthiest guy I've ever met. He was my assistant
Oh,
lacrosse. He was my lacrosse coach my senior year of high school. When I graduated high school, he was my best friend for a number of years. I lived in the same, house as him for a long time. I got to see the benefits of his diet. I got to see the energy, the extreme. I mean, you don't. Nobody understands what it was like to hang out with this guy during that time period. He had so much energy. You feel like you're hanging out with, you know, three very charismatic people at once because he had so much
right.
energy. He had three jobs. He had three physically demanding jobs. He was a he woke up very, very early in the day and was the receptionist at a yoga studio and worked at the yoga studio too. So he was very into yoga. Then he was a a bicycle guy, like a cyclist. He worked at a cycling store for like very rich, bicycle
Hmm.
enthusiasts. And then his third job was, oh, maybe he Ubered. He had so much energy. He had three jobs most of the time that I knew. And he didn't look like he had three jobs. He didn't have like single mom syndrome where he's like beat down all the time. He was like,
Right.
next day's
Really
here,
good.
wonderful.
Yeah.
He was so buoyant. Buoyant is the word that I choose. Buoyant. Nothing got this guy down. He had infinite energy. He was in impeccable health, and he never had to convince me. In fact, he would buy me fried chicken when we'd hang out. And
Nice.
he never had to convince me. I never watched a single YouTube video. Those are the weak vegans. Those are the weak vegetarians who, oh, I feel bad for the cow. I watched this one video. Well, then you're just
Yeah.
the only thing holding you to your diet is guilt. That's not going to work.
Exactly.
You
I'm
need
all
to
about
be
doing it for you.
you need to be a
Yeah.
selfish vegetarian. You need to be
Yeah.
selfish where you're putting yourself first. You're vegetarian because it's the healthiest choice you can make. Fuck the cows.
Well,
I don't give a
I'm
shit
glad you
about the
said that.
cows,
Well,
horses.
thank you. I'm glad you vocalized basically how I go about it when I'm in that mode of like, yeah, you know what? I'm not doing it for the animals, honey. I'm not doing it for the
Mhm.
environment. I'm doing it for me.
Well, that's how you
You
start
know,
off. Now you
I think the
do,
vegetarians, the I think vegetarian.
yeah.
Go ahead.
I was gonna say that's how you start off, but then once you're truly free from the adrenochrome, once you're free from the guilty conscience, you really, really do just don't want it anymore. So if you do get enough time, if you do, here's another thing. You gotta cleanse the parasites. You gotta get rid of the parasites when you're taking a break from meat.
Yeah.
If your parasites
Mhm.
aren't gone and you're just resisting these parasite urges all day, you're never gonna win. The parasites are
You got
gonna
any
win.
parasite cleansing tips?
Fasting.
All
There's
right,
only
totally.
one thing. Stop the flow. Stop the flow.
Right, starve them. Yeah,
Starve them. That's it. But you've got all these people who take herbs and shit. It's all very secondary.
and
Cut
get
the
a colonic.
cut the flow. Well, Colonics like the cleanup crew. Like that'll get them out
Right.
too, but they've got to be
You got to break your addiction. Yeah.
Yeah, you got to hit them hard before you get a colonic. But your point about tomatoes, and then I got to run. I could talk all night for
Yeah, I
real.
know. Yeah, yeah, yes.
It's a
Totally. Please cut me off. Yeah,
pleasure talking
exactly.
to you. You're very welcoming here,
Like,
and but you let me be me too, which is nice. But the whole thing
oh, it's
about
been fun.
tomatoes is when I got a colonic, um, we're looking for parasites. You know, you're looking for parasites that there's a little viewing tube on the way out,
Mm-hmm.
and you can see what's coming out of you. Now, in theory,
Mm.
they tell you to go to the bathroom before and to not eat for a reasonable amount of time beforehand. So, in theory, you're empty.
Mm-hmm.
We're not empty. We're very dirty.
Mm.
Even me as a vegan for
Mm.
multiple years with 12 hours of no food and a full bowel movement before, I had pounds of shit come out of me, stuck to the inside of
God.
my organs. We saw about at least two flukes leave. I didn't have any worms. We didn't see any worms, which is good. That's expected. You know, I'm a vegetarian, so the worms probably died off a pretty long time ago. But because they only want meat, they only want meat and alcohol. That's all they want, really. Maybe
What's a fluke then? What's a fluke?
a fluke is a parasite that's not a worm. It's more
That's what
it's
I thought.
it's
Okay, it's a
more like
parasite.
a almost like a fossilized like sea creature is what it looks like almost
Okay.
like a crustacean. Oh, it's weird,
Right.
um,
Interesting.
like kind of
Well, good.
scaly. But those got
What
out,
what
and then but the last thing is what was unexpected. But you know, we were trying to see parasites leave, but what was unexpected was the amount of tomato skins.
Oh.
Tomato skins, you got to be careful with those, especially if they're like sprayed with all this shit. If a
Mm.
tomato skin won't get broken down in your gut. So I had like
Oh,
10-year-old
wow.
tomato skins coming out of
You
me.
could just tell they were red. You know, how could
Oh,
you tell they were tomato skins?
I didn't know the person who does it as a profession knew exactly what they
Right.
were. She's like, yeah, that's
Oh.
you've got, you know, dozens of tomato skins coming out, and
Have you
they still look like tomato skin. They're still red, and like
right.
yeah.
Have you uh you've only had one or how many colonics have you had?
I've only had one colonic. Like a colonic is where they fill you up to the brim and then hose you out.
Right.
And
And suck it out. Yeah.
yeah. So, but I've done a lot of enemas, which is like it's like
Yeah, I've never done that.
it's a smaller fill. It doesn't fill you up as much, but it still acts on the rectum and parts of your
Right.
colon. And you know, this is gay.
Oh.
This is like gay shit that I don't, you know,
I was gonna say,
I
man, we're
don't
gonna end
talk
it on
about
the
on
gayest
my
shit possible, but it's okay.
it's quite literally gay shit, but
If they've made it this far into the podcast, God bless them. So the website is YouTube old underscore world underscore Florida, or is that just
yeah.
Instagram?
It
Well,
doesn't
anyway,
matter. Old World
all you have to
Florida,
do is type in old world Florida.
yeah, it'll come up
Exactly.
in all. And the thing about I don't like talk about colonics all day long. But if someone, you
No,
know, asks me, I will
it's part.
talk about it. So my YouTube channel is
Well, no, it's inspiring.
not like that. You know.
Well, I've always wanted to ask somebody that had one if they're bullshit or not. So that's been
Oh,
one of
they're
those things
real.
I've always wanted to. Well, I wanted to try, but I'm like, who knows if that's just BS? But
Oh,
it
no, no,
literally
no,
is
no.
shit coming out of it.
Dude, you will be so glad that you did it. So glad.
I'm gonna
Because
look into it.
don't eat, stop eating, go 12 hours
Yeah.
if you can. You know, hey, if you can go 24 hours, even better. But the longest you go without eating, you in theory, from what everything they tell us in health class and school, you should be clean, should be squeaky clean, right? But we all know that's
Yeah.
not the truth. We all know the
Oh
shit
yeah.
we're eating accumulates and
I've seen
yeah,
the impacted stuff come out of people on
right.
videos. It's very unpleasant. But anyway, Dr. Narco Longo, Old World, Florida, definitely a must see. It will change your whole perspective on the Bible at a minimum. And at a maximum, who knows all the rabbit holes he can present you that you can go down. I mean, tonight we could have gone down at least 10, 15 more. No problem.
Right.
But definitely check out the channel. It's always a pleasure to have you here. And next time, hopefully, we'll be going to float and doing this from Florida.
Yeah, we'll have
So
to do it.
thanks.
We'll have to do it sooner. The last one was like a year ago or something.
I know. Well, it's
It's
been a
also
wild
summer.
ride, I'm sure, for yourself as well. It's been wild past a couple, probably year almost.
Yeah, it was summer last
You've
time we
been,
did this.
that's true. All right, cool. About a year.
Nice.
All right, Doc. Well, as always, you're enlightened. I can definitely tell with you're eating the definitely that is the lifestyle I actually recommend when people are like, is it vegan? Is it carnivore? Is it raw? I'm like, if you want to know, it's vegetarian, right down the middle. Grow the food yourself. You know, milk, kill the animal if you're going to eat it, but do it all yourself. Every level, you know, the food and how the animal's been treated. Because I do think the stress hormone obviously plays a impact on the milk and the byproducts of the animal. You know,
Yeah.
it's like adrenochrome in a way. So anyway, I'm glad we were able to have this conversation tonight. Always a pleasure. Dr. Narco Longo, Oval, Florida. As always, you are enlightened.
Thanks, Flip.
Thanks again.